Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Delaware Public Service Commission meeting of September 3rd, 2025. We have the reading of the meeting minutes of August 13th, 2025. Any commissioner have any corrections or changes to those minutes? Commissioner Conaway.
I second. Oh, sorry. I second.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 You're an aye, but you're abstention. Okay.
Aye.
Four people. I'm voting aye. Motion carries with one abstention. We have public comment next.
Good afternoon, members of the public. When I call your name, you may come to the table, speak directly into the microphone, and state your name for the record and proceed with public comment. Each speaker will get approximately 2 minutes, and when your time has expired, I will let you know. You are also welcome to submit your public comment in writing by mailing it to our office here at 861 Silver Lake Boulevard, Suite 100, Dover, Delaware 19904, or by emailing it to us at psc@delaware.gov. If you are participating via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please use the raise hand function now, and you will be permitted to unmute when I call your name. First up, we have Mr. John Nichols.
Welcome, Mr. Nichols. We've missed you, my friend.
Morning.
Morning. Good afternoon, really.
Good afternoon. I apologize. Good to see you all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about Agenda 3 on Item 3 on your agenda, the true up provision for Bloom Energy. I want to talk a little bit about that in the context of how the tariff is levied. This is a chart. You can find it anywhere. It's a mountain chart for natural gas prices at the Henry Hub. It's pretty volatile. If we go back to 2013 and we look at what the prices have been per month, the highest price was $8.81. The lowest looks like $1.60, but it's all over the place. So we don't know what the price of natural gas is.
Mr. Nichols, I apologize for the interruption, but I've got your handout here.
You do.
And but they're not necessarily in the order that you're speaking because I can't.
That's okay. The handouts I provided, I was going to speak to, but I have a consulting engineer. His name is Lindsay Levine. He had his hand up on the screen. He's going to address those. I can speak to them if you'd like me to.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
But I thought he could not only speak to the meaning of them, but he could tell you how he actually did the mathematics.
Okay.
That's not me. That's Lindsay.
My apologies.
That's okay. So getting back to Henry Hub, very volatile. And then you look at the PJM energy market, and I did that, and we're looking at $30.62 a megawatt hour up to $67.77 a megawatt hour. That also is pretty volatile. So we don't really, Bloom doesn't really participate in the capacity markets to any extent. So when we look at that and we look at what what Delmarva, the agent for Bloom, asks in the modification of the tariff, they give a couple of reasons here as to why. Under the current filing requirement, customers experience repeated adjustments in the rate they see on the bill. Charges range month to month, annual filing, fewer adjustments, more stability and predictability. That cannot be accurate. They cannot know what the price of natural gas is going to be. They cannot know what the value of the electricity is when it's sold to the grid. It's unpredictable, and that's what history shows us. So I don't see that as a valid reason. Secondly, they talk about the significant burdens on staff, I presume, their staff, DPA and DPSC. when this tariff was adopted, all of this was factored in. Delmarva, I know, is allowed to charge a fee for the work that they do and as agent for Bloom Energy in submitting these bills. So I'm sorry, Crimea River, they were the people who brought they were part of the people who brought Bloom Energy to Delaware. They're responsible for it. And the fact that it's creating some administrative burden on them, it's irrelevant. Now, additionally, one company, and this tariff was adopted, Linde Companies, now Messer, they stated publicly that their electricity bill, because of this non-bypassable tariff, went up $100,000 a month, $1.2 million a year. They threatened to pull out of the state. Now, Messer owns them. How they feel about that, I don't know. I see that you have a provision in here in this modified tariff that includes an update that will allow Delmarva an interim true-up and rate adjustment if the deferral balances show a significant over-under collection between annual filings, which speaks to my points. It's exactly going to happen. They know it's going to happen. So they put this provision in there that says, don't worry about the fact that Delmarva is holding working capital for especially of everyone, not just the big companies, but the big companies for certain that they may not be entitled to, or maybe they could be getting a savings on a month-to-month basis. They might be saving money. It cuts both ways. They could be paying more. They could be paying less. And here you acknowledge that we may have to address this periodically, which gets back to, well, if that's what you're going to have to do, then why not do what you've always been doing, which is do it on a month-to-month basis? That's why I oppose it. But let me add just a few more comments, if I might, please, that seem off topic, but they're not. Bloom Energy is a public company. Their market cap's $13 billion. In their 10-K filing, they indicated that they have right now $9.6 billion in outstanding costs for service contracts. They don't specify how many megawatts they have to service, but $9.6 billion. This is a company that has to continue to sell their product and get it out the door as quickly as they can just to generate the revenue to take care of that which they've already sold. And we know, and my consulting engineer will talk about this, that Bloom Energy's capacity diminishes rather rapidly, especially as they get into those later years. That's why they had to replace their fuel cells, where replacement was never part of the original discussion, but they did after. They said it was going to be more efficient, but they're right back to where they were at the end of the life of the first fuel cells. It's a company that has a questionable past. The EPA fined them what was the number here? The EPA fined them $1.37 million for the disposal of hazardous material, chromium, lead, arsenic, benzene. What they were doing, they were digging holes and burying it. We tipped them off. We tipped the EPA off. Carol Amen, who was running Region 3 hazardous waste at the time, investigated them, and that led to the fine. And now they send their hazardous material to Indiana, where it's dipped in acid, and they recover some usable copper. And as a result, they qualify for a RCRA. It's called RCRA exemption on the federal level. But they recover very little copper. And I'll add this, and I'll finish with this. They transport what is acknowledged to be hazardous waste, and I'll include this as part of the record. This is Bloom's internal documents, hazardous materials business plan binder. All right. This hazardous material is transferred DOT, just any hauler, two guys with a truck and a panel truck with all of the hazardous materials I spoke of, until it gets out to Indiana, where they put it in an acid bath and recover some of the copper. They're a bad actor. They have been a bad actor. I've testified to that many, many occasions, and I'm here to tell you this should not change. Month-to-month filing. Lindsay, my collaborator, will talk to you about the violation of the DENREC permit. The commission is not overpaying them. Your approval of the tariff as they submitted is accurate. The problem is when Bloom Energy deployed the new fuel cells, DENREC provided air pollution standards that they had to meet. And one of those air pollutants that they identify is carbon dioxide. They are on a rolling 12-month average, and the charts that you have in your possession show that they are in violation. Now, Lindsay says, my collaborator, Lindsay Levine, Mr. Levine, that's Lindsay, that the value of that, if that tariff was changed, would be about $5 million. If we said, well, we're not going to pay you, you don't have the authority to do it. But if you did do it, it would save the ratepayers $5 million. It's DENREC's responsibility. That's the last reason why you should not approve it. Every single month, Lindsay trues up their emissions. Lindsay does the calculations, and he notifies DENREC so that they're aware of it. Unless they take enforcement action against DENREC takes enforcement action against Bloom, you should not change the terms of the tariff. Thank you for allowing me the extra time. I truly appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be here. I hope it helps factor in your decision. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. We're going to continue with in-person public comment before we get to Zoom. The next speaker is Gregory Mazzata. Okay. The mic, just make sure you speak directly into it.
Gregory Mazzata. I'm the president of the HOA for the community of Mill Race. We're a community of 14 homes across the street from Rockland Mills in Rockland, Delaware. I'm here because we're all sick and tired of being abused by Delmarva Power. Public utilities are monopolies that are supposed to be regulated.
Yeah, sorry. Monopolies are legal for the following reasons. They reduce competition, they harm the consumer, they create barriers to entry, they reduce incentive to operate efficiently, and there's no incentive to innovate. For 15 years now, residents of Rockland and the surrounding area have been suffering damages from power surges. The last 2 years have been especially bad. There's been at least 9 recorded power surges and outages. While I understand the need for tariffs, if the tariffs are not enforced, then they're just another monopoly. For too long, Delmarva has hidden behind these tariffs, washing their hands of any responsibility, kicking the can down the road with these false promises, inaction, and lack of innovation. The tariffs do not allow for willful negligence. They do not allow for a utility to ignore a problem, putting Band-Aids on a broken leg that does not fix the problem, nor does it constitute addressing the real issues. If this were a free market, Delmarva would be out of business because the customer would have a choice and go somewhere else. Back in October of 24, we had a major power surge. I was at work, my wife called me, Greg, power went out, and I heard an explosion and the house shook. Fortunately, I was only 15 minutes away. I came home, I found my meter on the outside of my house had exploded. There was bare wires, and the container was in my mulch and in my driveway. Didn't know what to do. God forbid, what happens if the power comes back? So I called Delmarva. Fortunately, they came and they turned off the power. $25,000 later, with all the damage to my house, things were back to normal until the next power surge. On behalf of my community and all Delaware residents who suffered financial loss and peace of mind, I'm pleading for help. We need somebody to stick up for us. We need somebody to do the right thing, protect us from Delmarva. Thank you. I would just like to add, just in the past couple of years, our 2 communities, Mill Race and across the street, we've suffered over $300,000 in damage. Most of this is coming out of our pockets. A lot of people don't want to submit claims to insurance, and we're getting absolutely nowhere. Only reason I'm here is, again, I'm just pleading for help. We need somebody to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mazzata.
Thank you.
I'm
Next,
very familiar with your neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood. I'm sorry that those problems are happening. Have you talked to the DPA about these issues? Have you talked to the Delaware Public Advocate about these issues? See those 2 guys down there at the end of the table? I suggest that you speak to them before you leave today, unless you have to leave early. We've heard you, and I'm sure Delmarva Power and Light has heard you as well, because they're in the room. And so we wish you well, and we'll see what we can do to assist.
you. Next speaker is Barbara Duckart. Is that correct? Ducart.
My name is Barbara Ducart. I'm a neighbor of Greg's. And I want to speak to you about what the power outages in Mill Race mean to me. My name is Barbara Ducart. I have lived at 42 Mill Race Lane for 17 years. Mill Race is a lovely cluster of 14 luxury townhomes in a bucolic setting overlooking the Brandywine, immediately adjacent to Brandywine Creek State Park. The perfect country setting, only yards from suburban Wilmington, becomes a very dangerous place to live when the power goes out, as it does regularly. Sometimes the power goes out only for a blip. Sometimes it's out for hours or days, but invariably the outages are followed by the restoration of power, which causes expensive and much longer lasting results. In the last 10 months, we have had 5 of these devastating outages: October 14th and December 19th of 2024, 1 in April, and 2 back-to-back last month in August 13th and 14th. Aggregate costs for these 5 incidents exceed $100,000 in mill race alone. Please think about that for a minute. More than 100,000 in 1 year in just one tiny community. Some of my neighbors have filed insurance claims. Some, like my husband and me, have paid out of pocket because we fear that our insurance costs would skyrocket if we were to make claims. Delmarva Power has done nothing to improve the systematic problems that they know exist, nor have they paid out even 1 penny in remuneration. Regardless of whether it's sunny or stormy, day or night, they assign blame to weather or trees and never take responsibility. Since the incident in October of 2024, I have had to replace or repair major and minor appliances, phases of my HVAC system, my security alarm system, my audio-visual system, my computers. I have 2 breaker boxes, each of which has a whole house surge protector, plus individual protectors on each appliance that I can attach one to. I have lost the whole house ones twice this year, and the smaller ones at different times when they did their job and took the hit for the microwave, the garage door opener, the TV, the computer. I have purged the entire contents of my kitchen refrigerator, freezer, as well as the extra freezer in my basement more than once. I have had to change or cancel appointments when I'm home alone and I can't open the garage door by myself. My husband and I like to eat in restaurants, but only when we choose to do so, not because we don't dare to open the refrigerator and we have no way to heat the food anyway. The expense of power outages is obvious. The danger part, not so much. As I mentioned before, my community is tucked nicely into a little valley. Cell phone service is spotty at best, so I like to have a landline. But when the power goes out, so does the landline and the Wi-Fi, making communication difficult, if not impossible. We are all alone down here. When I can get a signal and I call Delmarva to let them know, it is not helpful when their automated system refers me to their website for quicker service. I shudder to think of what would happen if there were a medical emergency or a fire. When the power goes out, it takes down my security system, so there's no automatic reporting of smoke or fire. And let's not even talk about intrusion by bad actors who know that we are sitting ducks when the power is out. Because these townhomes have many floors, some of us are lucky to have elevators. I seldom use mine, but when I am taking heavy or bulky things like bags of groceries from one level to another, it's a nice thing to have. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be trapped in there between floors with a landline that doesn't work and a cell phone that has no signal. My community sits up high, so it's unlikely that the Brandywine will flood our homes. But the water that comes from the runoff and the culvert sometimes resembles Niagara Falls. When the power goes out, so do the sump pumps that keep our lower levels dry. During one of the August surges, the blips knocked out some of my track and LED lighting. I witnessed the lights take the hit. I saw the smoke. I smelled the burning. I had no way to determine whether the wiring was burning inside my walls or ceiling, and I barely slept that night, knowing that I could not rely on my smoke alarm to keep me safe. Because of these many issues, my husband and I considered the expense of purchasing and having a generator installed. We had several meetings with various engineers who all came to the same conclusion. The layout of my home would not allow it. In my opinion, Delmarva Power is too big and, pardon the pun, too powerful. They treat their customers with disdain because they can. As a monopoly, they have no competitors. Delmarva Power customers have paid and continue to pay for wind and solar energy initiatives, but these dollars help the state meet their green energy goals, and they do nothing to remediate our local problems. Customers pay for high-quality, uninterrupted service, but in my neighborhood, we get far less than we are paying for. Delmarva will not do anything more than they are required to do because Millrace is barely a blip on their radar screens. I beg you to help us.
Ducard, thank you very much for your very thorough and heartfelt complaints about Delmarva Power and Light. Do you all have any, Mr. Mazzata, do you all have a record of how many telephone calls you've made to Delmarva Power and Light? How many, have you had any meetings with them about the issues?
Customer relations person. I know across the street they have had meetings, had people come out. Like this has been ignored by us. But at the end of the day, we have no power. Doesn't matter what we say, whether we complain or not. I think I get a call when my meter blew off the house. There's nothing. That's why we're here. We are literally powerless. Doesn't matter how many times we call. It does not matter.
Well, I can assure you that it does matter. And I can assure you that I appreciate the fact you're both here. Now, I would ask Delmarva to reply with respect to what you all have said, but that wouldn't be fair because they didn't come here prepared to answer or respond to your comments. So all I can do for you right now is both of you to talk to Mr. Tweedy and the people at the DPA, and I can assure you that they've heard what you've said as well. Well, you're saying that it's new to me, and it's probably new to the DPA as well. So you need to do what you're doing, which is to talk to us and then talk to the people who actually can execute on issues that you are concerned about.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Absolutely.
I want to thank Mr. Mazzata and Ms. Ducart for coming before the commission. We have had, at least in my tenure, one other community who has come before the commission to request some improvements with respect to Delmarva's service and operations. Is there anyone else in the public domain who is going to speak to this issue today? Okay, after you finish your comments, I have a question. Thank you.
Our next speaker is William Hartnett.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My hearing isn't the greatest,
Speak up, please.
but I do thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bill Hartnett. I'm a resident at Rockland Mills, and Greg is our neighbor across the street at the Mill Race. And there's a handout that I provided that's correct. So I'll briefly go through that. I know that you've gotten a lot of information today already. The scope of this problem is not just Rockland Mills or the Mill Race. There are other surrounding communities that have had input with us to present today. So it's not just in a small area, it's a neighborhood of a number of areas. As Greg mentioned, we've had 9 events in the past since January 1st, and they're listed on the sheet that you have in front of you. 7 of those have been within the last year, the last 12 months. The damages have already been mentioned, 200,000 for Rockland Mills, 100,000 for the Mill Race, DuPont Country Club, over $500,000. And we expect that total to increase because we really haven't gotten a fix on all the repairs that need to occur from the latest outage. And aside from cost, there is the downtime, the interruptions, waiting for parts, getting appliances. It's really quite a hassle. There have been several discussions with Delmarva over the last year, including one visit in person. Delmarva has taken several steps to improve their power grid reliability, including adding 3 arresters close to our neighborhood and doing tree trimming near power lines. Unfortunately, it hasn't eliminated the damage to our homes after an outage. We would like Delmarva to make more improvements to harden their grid, add more arresters, perform additional tree trimming. Also, we would like Delmarva to improve the startup process after an outage so it doesn't damage our homes. There must be a protocol for that can avoid the damage. There's got to be. And also, we would like advice from Delmarva regarding what we can do to protect our homes relative to grounding. Surge protectors are not working. There's something fundamental in the design of the service delivered to our community that is not correct. Somebody's got to look at it hard, someone very technical with the expertise and the time to assess what is going on. So we're here today basically to make you aware of our situation and ask how the PSC can help us work with Delmarva. I've heard the reference earlier today to the public advocate that you have mentioned, but we also want to know if there's other resources within the PSC that can provide a case number, a tracking process. How do we monitor this through Delmarva, working with them? And we're willing and happy to work with Delmarva so that we can track progress. Certainly, I cannot imagine other communities have not gone down this road before. We're not the first people to have this issue. What has worked before in this situation? Is there a protocol for it? I would think that would begin with trying to understand the technicalities of the grid, the maps of the area, the topography, or whatever else is going on. So we also want to have information shared with us about what's involved in getting these technical solutions on the table and getting them completed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you also, Mr. Hartnett. So I agree with the chair that I don't believe Delmarva would have come prepared to address this issue, and it's not on our agenda today. And legally, we have to put our agenda items out 7 days in advance, but it's a very important issue. Again, I appreciate it that it's brought before the commission. And just for the record, for those in the room who have a stake in the outcome and solution to this, which would be Delmarva and the public advocate and staff, by a show of hands, show me who has heard the problem statements. Delmarva, public advocate. For the record, hands have been raised and folks have heard this issue. And so I would ask that staff, Delmarva, and public advocate get together and devise some proactive steps that can help us to resolve.
No, make one comment. Some of the issues that the customers have talked about, there are similar issues in similar communities that Delmarva and the DPA have been working through over the course of the last year or so. The DPA and I think Delmarva are happy to talk about that with the customers. And one of our goals is to try and make sure that the problems that have occurred to these customers gets addressed and there's a resolution. So I know Mr. Jordan and I have talked about this at length in other issues. So.
Okay, I didn't want to belabor the point for those who are in the room because we do have a lot of business to take care of today. but at least I saw lots of hands of the stakeholders being raised, and we'll look forward to getting some feedback and some thoughts and options for the path forward. Thank you very much for the community for coming in today.
At this time, we're going to move to virtual public comment, and I believe there's only one hand raised, and that's Mr. Lindsay Levine. You can unmute and talk now.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. My name is Lindsay Levine. I'm a chemical engineer, an award-winning chemical engineer. I've written extensively. I've published numerous papers on fuel cells, hydrogen. I'm considered to be one of the world's experts in hydrogen. I have no beef against Bloom as a company, but I have beef against them as a greenwashed scam. I don't trade their stock. I don't make money. I actually am the tipster to the EPA on the hazmat that Bloom had. And I am also the tipster to the EPA, CID, and the FBI on fraud in the Delmarva monthly payments to Bloom via the invoices that are sent from Southern Power, who are Bloom's tax equity partner and the managing partner of the LLC called Diamond States. When Bloom had to rebuild the power stations, they had to re-get permits from DENREC. And in those permits, for the first time ever, they actually set limits on the amount of CO2 that could be emitted each hour and each rolling 12 months. I informed DENREC that there was a mistake in how Bloom claimed that they would have 700 pounds of CO2 from 6.2 million BTUs of natural gas. Yet DENREC issued the permits, and because of this mistake, Bloom does not exceed the natural gas usage each month or each hour or each 12 months, but they exceed the amount of CO2 emitted. And the CO2 is what really should stop them from generating too much power. They generate maybe 3% extra power each month, which means an extra subsidy from Delmarva ratepayers, because each megawatt hour has a subsidy of like $166 in that tariff that you all passed. Now, when you passed the tariff way back when in 2012, you allowed Bloom a heat rate of 7.55 million BTUs, which is 844 pounds of CO2 per megawatt hour. The DENREC permit doesn't allow that amount of natural gas. Even the fake natural gas that Bloom claims, it's only 6.2 million BTUs per megawatt hour, not the 7.55. But that's besides the point. So the permit doesn't actually match the tariff. But now Bloom is overbilling, or Southern Power as Bloom's managing partner, each month by something like $80,000. And since the new permit was issued on December of 2019, so starting in January 2020 to the present, I estimate the overbilling at $5 million. That data is given every month based on the dockets that I get out of Delafile, which is the PSC system, and given to the FBI and the EPA CID. And I wish to continue to give that as evidence of fraud across state lines by Bloom and Southern Power against Delmarva ratepayers. So I can only argue that I wish you to continue doing monthly dockets, and the charts that I sent you should be part of the record because they actually show the monthly data I have given to the FBI. I'm willing to take any questions you have of me, but this is not a personal vendetta against Bloom, Delmarva, or Southern Power. It is fraud.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Question for you, sir. How long have you been sending this information to the various governmental agencies?
I started sending it from day one when DENREC approved the permit on the 20th of December 2019. I contacted the EPA CID 3.5 years ago and spoke to Special Agent Rotel from San Diego. They assigned him. He told me in a call that there was enough evidence for him to forward this to the FBI. And the FBI agent is Special Agent Screen in San Jose, California, and she's been getting it for almost 3 years.
Mr. Levin, if you did that 4 times a year rather than 12 times a year, wouldn't you save some postage and some time and effort?
Yeah, but I tell you, what needs to happen is actually enforcement. In the DENREC permit, they say that Bloom has to do monthly filings of their pollutants, including CO2. DENREC refuses to issue me documents under FOIA because a very bad guy named Matt Den became your attorney general. He was part of the original scam. And he put an enforcement action that out-of-state people cannot get FOIA documents. So the only place I can get this is really from the dockets that you have. You have a great system on your Della file. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but isn't the issue whether or not it would be just as great if you get the records 4 times a year rather than 12 times a year?
I don't really worry if it's 4 times a year, but now you want to do it now once a year. So if you recommend that it's 4 times a year, that's fine. That means every quarter there'd be a true up.
Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Lindsay, for the input. Question I have and struggling with a little bit is we're in a public comments section of the agenda, and I'm curious with regard to the first presenter, I believe Mr. Nichols, as well as Lindsay, why do we not have you as interveners for the conversation during the agenda bullet? Can someone help me with that?
Would respectfully submit that the reason is we have the DPA who represents the interests of consumers and other people in our state. And of course, the people that you referred to, at least one of them who I'm looking at is in the front row, is a pretty sophisticated person. And if he thought he would be successful in attempting to be an intervener, he would have done it. So plus he knows he has the opportunity to speak his mind and present documents. So I can't answer the question definitively, but there is someone sitting here who is a member of this docket who will later make presentation on this issue. You can ask, I think, more questions about that. But right now, like you said, we're in a public comment session, not really a discussion on the
on the merits. On the merits, I understand, but it certainly leads me to question what weight, if any, to give to the information that I have heard in the public comments section of the meeting, if I believe in some framework that the information has some merit. So I'll leave it there for the time being until we get to the agenda topic. Thank you.
I would submit to you, Commissioner Gray, that if Mr. Nichols or Mr. Levin or the other gentleman made comments which you think deserve merit in terms of questions of the parties in the actual proceeding, that would be an excellent time to ask those questions. And of course, we know that you're not ready to ask questions, so I'm sure you won't hesitate to ask questions when we actually get on the record on the merits of this particular matter.
Agreed, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I believe we have.
May I say a word?
You can say more than 2 words, Mr. Levin.
Okay. It's a federal crime to tell lies to a FBI agent. And I've certainly written everything down to the FBI. And I wouldn't make this stuff up, I can tell you that. I have, I'm 73 years old. I'm an award-winning chemical engineer. I've made monoclonal antibodies for treating people with cancer. I've probably done more good work for, than I ever imagined I would. And so I'm willing to stand in a court of law with my hand up in Delaware and tell you all about this fraud.
Mr. Levin, we have no doubt but that you are as accomplished as you've indicated, and that with really no problem with your credibility. But you understand we're just dealing with a limited issue here. We're not dealing with whether or not Bloom is a bad company or a good company. We're not dealing with the facts that you sent to the FBI, and we're not questioning your integrity in any way, shape, or form. We're dealing with a simple request to consolidate matters, and you've already indicated to us on that issue what your opinion was. And so that's really the only relevant information here today. I understand how upset you are and how anxious you are to bring your findings to a body that can actually address it. But I can assure you, this is not the body that addresses federal crimes, state crimes, fraud, some of the issues you've been talking about. We just don't, we're here for a very limited purpose. And unfortunately, sir, most of the stuff that you talked about was beyond the scope of that purpose.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to emphasize my agreement with your summary on that point, because I made the question in my notes with respect to the scope of what we're dealing with today had nothing to do with whether things are legal or illegal. And with regard to that, I don't believe this commission has standing. I would see that more in a judicial court. And so I agree with you completely. And that's my last comment on the matter.
Sajak?
I believe we have one more public commenter, Marissa McClinton. You can unmute and speak now.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Marissa McClinton. I'm the Environmental Justice Associate Organizer for the Sierra Club Delaware chapter, here to share our thoughts on what a large load tariff could look like. We believe that calling for stakeholders to weigh in on the tariff is a great step forward, but we want to stress that the end result must be protective of our grid, ratepayers, and ensure that any new large load... I'm so sorry. The tariff is a great step forward, but we want to stress that the end result must be protective of our grid, ratepayers, and ensure that any new large load assists us in meeting our renewable energy and emissions reduction targets, not jeopardizes them. Although the Public Service Commission itself is not named in the Climate Change Solutions Act, it sits under a State Department and thus has an obligation to consider how their processes and new regulations like tariffs will impact progress towards these statutory emissions reductions targets. The following are some ways that we feel the PSC can help us reach these goals. Creating requirements for self-generation or contracts in place for new additive time-matched clean energy in our grid region as a primary source of baseload energy for any additional large load users. We feel that at a minimum, an optional green energy component could be introduced that would allow these users to source 100% of their power through the utility using carbon-free energy. They should only be allowed to do direct load procurements if they help the state or utility meet their emissions targets and/or RPS goals. In order to protect ratepayers, we should ensure that the new rate class pays not just for the primary upgrades and construction related to the project, but also any secondary upgrades related to new or existing large load users. Ratepayers must not be left to pay for additional transmission upgrades if the need arises due to the actions of these large load users. These users should also pay for any increased capacity costs that would otherwise be shouldered by ratepayers. There have been countless reports from across the country about how large load users submit areas for a plan, promising jobs and economic development and prompting massive infrastructure improvements, and then leaving before these improvements are paid back. The PSC should ensure that there is authority either within the tariff or addressed elsewhere to require deposits or bonding for any grid infrastructure upgrades in order to prevent ratepayers from having to pay for stranded assets. We support minimum contract terms where an early exit by the company before the date disclosed on their application is met with an exit fee that is comparable to the investments paid for by ratepayers, utilities, and the state. Other states like Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky have required contracts of 10 or even 20 years to ensure benefits are realized and investments are justified. Another consideration is around data disclosure and transparency. When large load users interconnect under the tariff, it is crucial that there is a high level of data disclosure and transparency around load flexibility, and demand management strategies, project lifespan, owner and or prospective buyers, and other information that is necessary per the PSC to be able to evaluate the true impacts that the user could have on the energy system and ratepayers, but also so that any potential impacts on surrounding communities can be considered during the process. We support incentives within the tariff to utilize batteries as backup rather than diesel or gas, which helps carbon goals, boosts utility resilience, and reduces potential harmful pollution on neighboring communities. Additionally, the PSC should ensure that any self-supply by large users on the tariff must not exceed 50 megawatts. It must be grid connected. This will provide fairness between users and utilities and ensures that our grid can rely on any excess capacity during times of need. Our grid is a delicate ecosystem that requires cooperation from those who seek to situate themselves within it, and this is one way to achieve that. Lastly, we oppose any attempts to create a special discount rate for these large load users under the guise of economic development or job creation. While the benefits that these bring to our state are undeniable, it does not justify special treatment or expedited approvals throughout the process. We would also welcome a grid enhancement fund so that these users end up providing a true benefit to Delaware and our grid. Large users present a unique opportunity for our state. We must rise to the occasion to protect our environment, energy system, and ratepayers from any unjust impacts from large load users trying to come into our state. On behalf of the Sierra Club Delaware chapter, I thank you for your consideration and look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
Ms. McClinton, thank you very much for your comments. I want you to know that the subject of data centers or large users of energy is a matter of intense discussion within the state. You are quite aware, I'm sure, that we have no ability to give batteries incentives, nor do we have any ability to prohibit incentives. We just get what the legislature sends us or DENREC might send us, and we then check to see that it meets all the legislative conditions and that we follow through in accordance with the law. But I do think that your speech would be well received, obviously, by DENREC and by the governor's policy energy advisor and by representatives and senators in the state. And I do appreciate you being here to talk to us about that because, you know, it's good. It's a good message for us. But on the other hand, this organization has to make sure that the customers get electricity, that people like that just spoke at our meeting today that get their service is taken care of. So it's that they have power. We're a pretty practical agency here. We deal with the nuts and bolts. And some of this other things that you're arguing about or talking about are very commendable, but they really come in at a higher level than us, at legislative level, the governor's level. So thank you for your presentation. Do you have any more questions since I've rambled on a while here?
No further questions. I thank you for your comments.
Chairman, this concludes public comment.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ajak. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, from the public who spoke. It's to be honest with you, it's really refreshing to have the opportunity to sit here and listen to people discuss the issues in their communities and issues that they really feel strongly about. So, you know, it's been a nice, been the best public comment session we've had ever, I would say. Yeah. Now I get all excited about the public comment session. I got to find out where we are. How about the consent agenda first? How about the consent agenda first? We did the consent agenda? No, we just did the minutes. No problem. Okay, Commissioner Drexler, you want to take the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Is there any discussion on approving the consent agenda? Obviously, okay. There is no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody nay? Any abstentions? 5-0 in favor of the consent agenda items. And then we've got the regular agenda. Number 1 is in the matter of the adoption of regulations for net energy metering to implement the provisions of 26 Delaware Code 1014 as amended. We have,
Workman.
Yes, we do. We have proposed order number 10802, and Ms. Workman is going to discuss that with us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Chair. I'll try to keep it quick. May 7th, staff filed a petition to reopen Regulation 3012, which is the Commission's rules for regulation of net metering. On May 14th, the Commission issued Order Number 10703, opening the regulation. Staff made changes to the regulation to comply with Senate Bill 175, which was signed into law by the governor in July of 25. Staff also amended the rules to expand technical options for customers through meter adapters. Staff held a workshop on July 10th to review proposed changes to the rules and solicit feedback from stakeholders. Staff incorporated feedback from the public into their proposed regulation, which is the one that you have before you today and is attached as an exhibit to the proposed order. Staff now requests that the Commission adopt Order Number 10802 to publish the proposed amendments to Regulation 3012 in the Register of Regulations so that we could begin the formal process to amend the regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? I don't believe anybody else does. Mr. Gray?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt Order Number 10802 as submitted.
Second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 It was 5 ayes. Motion carries. We have number 2 in the matter of the provision of standard offer supply to retail customers in the service territory of Delmarva Power and Light Company. Looking at proposed order number 10803. Ms. Chen is our spokesperson for Delmarva.
Good afternoon, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. This item pertains to Delmarva Power's request for commission approval of the standard offer supply or SOS procurement process for 2026. The filing for you includes certain changes to the 2026 request for proposals and the 2026 full requirements service agreement. An SOS procurement improvement process meeting was held with all interested stakeholders on July 24th, 2025. And the company respectfully requests the Commission enter Order Number 10803 prepared by staff. This order will enable the 2026 Delaware SOS RFP process to begin on September 15th, 2025. Delmarva Power appreciates staff's preparation of the order and the opportunity to review and comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Workman?
Staff reviewed the filing with the proposed revisions to the RFP and the FSA as described by Delmarva, and they found no issues and respectfully request the Commission approve Order Number 10803.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crumpler?
No comment from DPA on this issue.
Commissioners, any questions of the parties?
I move that we adopt Order Number 10803 as presented.
I second.
Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 It's 5 ayes in favor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have proposed order number 10805, Delmarva Power again.
Thank you, and good afternoon again, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. Again, Zishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. Delmarva Power has filed a petition to modify one portion of the service classification QFCP-RC in its electric service tariff. This modification would change the timing of the company's compliance filing, setting forth its calculation of the QFCP-RC charge. Currently, the tariff requires the filing to be made monthly. In the petition, the company respectfully requests the timing to be changed to annual. As the Commission is aware, the monthly filing is very resource intensive, not only for the company, but also for Commission staff, the DPA, and the Commission itself. As set forth in our petition, under the current filing schedule, Delmarva Power files a rate computation reflecting forecasted QFCP costs 3 months out. For example, if the company files in January, it's forecasting out 3 months from there. Staff and the DPA then review the company's work papers, and staff then prepares a memorandum for the commission's decision of whether to approve the charge. In our example, that would be the next month, February. Upon commission approval, the rates become effective the following month after that, here, March. Then in April, that fourth month in our example, the actual QFCP costs are incurred and the company calculates a true-up of revenue collected compared to revenue forecasted. Then month 5, here, May, the company calculates a true-up of actual QFCP costs incurred in April compared to costs forecasted. So as a result of the current filing schedule, customers experience repeated rate adjustments month to month. The filing schedule also imposes significant time pressures on the company, staff, and the DPA as rate changes become effective 30 days from filing. These burdens are particularly acute in months where the commission only meets once, such as today. Most recent QFCP filing, which was docket 250796, which the commission just approved on the consent agenda, is a prime example. The company submitted its compliance filing on August 20th with supporting work papers, all in a very compressed time frame, and staff then reviewed and prepared a memorandum in just 1 week in order to be submitted for the commission's consideration today. The company has now submitted 162 monthly compliance filings since implementation of the QFCP tariff about 13 years ago. As staff noted in its memorandum, the commission and staff have not identified any manifest errors in any of the company's monthly filings. Shifting from a monthly filing to an annual filing would yield substantial benefits. Delmarva Power Electric customers would experience less fluctuation in the QFCP RC rate and thus have more stability and predictability in their bills. The change in filing schedule effectively smooths out the rate adjustment. The resource and time pressures currently experienced by staff, the DPA, and the company would be significantly lessened by changing from a monthly to annual filing. And I also note that the annual filing cadence that's been proposed is in line with other proceedings that the commission is familiar with, including the standard offer service and the gas cost rate. As discussed in the petition, Title 26, Section 364, subsection D5 of the Delaware Code, which is contained in REPSA, authorizes the company's proposal to modify the tariff. First, the modification will have no adverse effect on the qualified fuel cell provider project. The actual monthly payments to Bloom Energy Corporation remain unchanged, and the change does not affect the utilization of fuel cells as a REPSA compliant resource. Second, the tariff modification furthers the company's compliance with Section 364C, governing the recovery of miscellaneous costs, by providing for a more streamlined process and reducing the filing and system costs incurred from a monthly filing cycle. If approved, the company anticipates making the last monthly filing in October for the QFCP RC charge effective December 1st, 2025. The first annual filing would occur in October for an annual QFCP RC charge effective January 1st, 2026, and annual filings would occur every October. The Commission has long called for opportunities to improve process efficiencies and alleviate the burdens on staff. This petition is a response to that call. Delmarva Power respectfully requests the Commission approve proposed order number 10805. The company expresses its sincerest appreciation to staff and the DPA for their collaboration and the opportunity to make this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question, please. Thank you. 2 questions. So if you move this to an annual filing, what would be the magnitude of an annual true-up, if any true-up is necessary?
So in the tariff proposal, we have included language to allow that kind of interim rate adjustment. I don't know if you're asking for specific numbers.
Well, I'm interested more in a range estimate. I mean, I think what you pointed out is that the current ratepayer has fluctuations during the course of the year. I'm sure that those fluctuations are somewhat de minimis as compared to an annual fluctuation. And how would that hit a typical ratepayer?
Um, well, Commissioner Gray, I think, really what we're proposing here is to smooth out that increase. And so, for example, just in this past year, there were pretty significant fluctuations from one month to another month. And so the idea is that any rate adjustment would only occur once.
I understand that, but what I'm looking for is a range estimate because I'm sure if you've trued up every month, you could calculate over the course of 12 months what the range of fluctuation looks like. And what I'm trying to get to is how impactful might that one annual true up be on the ratepayer when it hits.
I understand. I don't believe I have, a specific impact analysis, but we can certainly follow up to make sure that we're understanding the question and giving you the information.
And if you're rolling this annual each year, I don't know when you would administer a true up. And I think we've already seen in the winter month, when we move into January, we have weather related impacts on ratepayers. God forbid, then we have layered a true up on top of that because we've gone to an annual cycle. So I have one more question. Have you quantified, has Delmarva quantified the savings of moving to an annual filing? What will you save in an annual period?
I think so right now, as far as the savings for the company specifically, the actual costs of the filing are lower than other proceedings where we do have annual filings. And I can get a specific numerical figure for you.
Okay, so I'm more interested in the numeric quantified numbers, but I have no further questions, Mr. Chair, at this point.
Thank you.
More questions? Workman?
Thank you, Chair. Kate Workman for staff. Staff agrees with the petition and recommends that the commission approve the petition to allow for this yearly filing. As Ms. Shen pointed out, there's going to be multiple filings that happen throughout the year for the true-up, and I don't think the true-up would happen in the winter months. My understanding was that it is in May. Is that right?
Actually, if I could bring up my colleague who might be able to speak to it. This is Robert Cohen, senior rate analyst, and so he might be able to provide some more information.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, just a few comments. Again, still not exact numbers, but in general, monthly variances, monthly true-ups range in the neighborhood of credits of $200,000 to additional charges of $200,000. So over time, they tend to go up and then they come down, going in and out of winter and summer peak months into spring and fall lower usage months. The true-ups tend to reverse. So that's why we get these peaks, the rate jumps up and then the rate drops down. Whereas over time, and again, I do not have the exact 12-month rolling average, which we can get for you, but over time, they tend to offset each other. So in some ways, an annual true-up would almost be expected to be of a similar average number as the monthlies that go either way. Plus, then currently we take that 200,000 or plus or minus and apply it against a 1 month, 3 month, approximately $3 million a month. Whereas now we're going to be taking that net true up, all the ups and downs across a year, and applying it to about $36 million on an annual charge. So again, the expectation is the effect on the rate will be fairly de minimis. some ways we won't know until we actually get into it, but that's one of the reasons we built in the interim mechanism. If we're wrong and it does start to go out of whack, we are going to watch it and then come back with the commission. Staff will also be watching it, that kind of stuff. Technically, though, it would go into effect, any adjustment, which could be equally likely to be a positive or a negative number, would go into effect each year in January because, we're filing in October based on a 12-month period for rates to go into effect January. So the adjustment would go in January. But again, we're working under the assumption that over time, it's going to be a de minimis net number because we've seen over 12 years how it goes up and down every month. So, and again, we have the safety valve if we're wrong and it goes out of whack.
I do have a question as well. So I'm looking at my bill and I see that this month, the charge is 0.00316 per kilowatt hour. So I guess the range we're looking for is what was the lowest range in the last 12 months and what was the highest of that, or not range, but highest monthly charge per kilowatt hour?
Had that number.
Yes, so in the past 12 months, the lowest was in January, which was 0.00279 per kilowatt hour. And then the highest rate was in May, which was 0.0061600. So the highest rate was it was actually a little bit more than double the lowest rate. So that was highest May, lowest January.
Right. That's a significant difference.
So I appreciate the math, the ups to downs, meaning that the slope or the trend line is going to probably dampen itself out. I don't like the idea that a true up is going to hit in the winter months because we already experienced, and you guys have put a program in place to even out the burden of the winter billings because of the weather. And so I have to conclude then that the primary motive for doing this is the benefit and savings administratively you're going to make as a result of this change. But I find it astonishing that you don't have a means of quantifying or stating what those savings are going to look like. You've had to calculate them.
We anticipate, going from once a month to 12 months makes it, and we know the once a month bounces around so much, 2 point some cents to 6 point some cents. This time next year, when we have an annual to a second annual, then it'd be a lot easier to calculate a change. We probably could go back and recreate, like, what would this have looked like if we'd have done this last year or the year before, and then come up with an estimated change, which again, we would assume would be relatively little because the primary charge item on the bill, about $3 million a month, is a price paid to Bloom that was fixed by the legislature for 15 years, $166 and some cents a month. So that's the primary billing item, is a fixed contract price, and that contract price was set by the legislature quite a while ago.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Crumpler,
No comment from DPA on the matter.
commissioners, any questions? Mr. Korea, do you want to take this one?
Move that we adopt the order number 10805. Second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
No no's or abstentions. They're all fine.
I oppose, Mr. Chair. I'm just uncomfortable in that there's not enough quantifiable information for me to make an informed decision. So I'm going to step out on this one. I oppose.
Okay, that's one no, so the motion carries. Thank you all very much. We have number 4 in the matter of Delmarva Power and Light Company's annual update Infrastructure, Safety, and Reliability Plan. And we have Mr. Jordan with us for that.
Good afternoon, Chair Winslow, Commissioners. Brian Jordan on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. May it please the Commission. I'm here to address item number 4. This is Delmarva Power's annual ISR plan that we file. It's a rolling 3-year plan, and its purpose is to identify proposed capital spending necessary to maintain the reliability and quality of our distribution services. As the Commission knows, this is really a 3-step process. It begins when Delmarva files a proposed ISR plan, which it did in this case on March 31st, 2025, as required by 26 Delaware Admin Code Section 3007.6.2. That proposed plan is broken down into 4 spending categories. We have mandatory, non-mandatory, vegetation management, and inspection and maintenance programs. And then those are, at least for mandatory and non-mandatory, further broken down into subsections that provide, as I mentioned, a preview of the company's proposed capital investments. Step 2 then occurs over the summertime when staff and the public advocate retain consultants. They propound discovery upon us, and we have a meet and confer session, at least 2, with the other parties to go over the plan, except for this year and last year, because this year in June, staff sought a waiver of that requirement because it indicated that it planned to file a petition to amend or change part of Section 3007. That was unopposed, and the Commission passed it. The same thing happened last year, and so there was no discovery and there were no meet and confer sessions this year on the ISR plan. That takes us to step 3, which is when the utility files its final ISR plan. And in this case, the final 2025 to 2027 ISR plan was filed July 25th, which again complies with administrative code. It was within 120 days as required. So that brings us to today and the end of phase 3, which is really for the Commission, as it's familiar, to review and acknowledge that the ISR plan meets the regulatory requirements. And to be clear as crystal, I've said this several times with the gas ISR, I'm here with the electric ISR, to say, as the Commission knows, that approval is not a judgment on whether an investment is good or bad, recoverable, unrecoverable. All it is acknowledging that the ISR plan has been filed. And the regulation is also clear that the Commission's decision today to acknowledge that this has been filed does not preclude the public advocate, staff, or any interveners from challenging the company's investment when it comes time to try to collect it. If anything, I think the ISR plan gives the public advocate, staff, and interveners a glimpse and allows them to prepare their discovery when we do try to recover it in a rate case. So with that said, the Commission has before proposed order number 10815, acknowledging that the ISR plan was submitted in accordance with Regulation 3007. I would like to thank the public advocate and staff throughout this process, despite the waiver, with the cooperation and for helping with preparation of the proposed order. And with that, I would ask respectfully that the Commission adopt proposed order 10815. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Winslow. Staff agrees that the final ISR plan submitted by Delmarva is consistent with the requirements of PSC Regulation 3007. Accordingly, staff does recommend that the Commission adopt order number 10815. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crumpler.
No comment from DPA about the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Crumpler. Commissioners, questions? Is there any money in there for Rockland Mills?
You
Go ahead
know,
and answer that question.
I I mean, I can certainly provide a short update. That was though part of our settlement agreement with the last electric rate case. We had 75 miles of overbuilt. They fit on that overbuilt line, and we've been installing arresters. And Mr. Crumpler alluded earlier to negotiations between the public advocate and Delmarva about that. I would say we are 99% of the way there. We have one final issue to resolve before we bring forward to the commission an application for a pilot program that would allow the installation of at-the-meter surge protectors within these communities. Whether they will work, that's part of the pilot program. So the short answer is yes, it's on our radar. And we're finalizing that. But we're addressing that really through the settlement agreement as well.
Ray?
So this really isn't, it is a rhetorical question of sorts, but the next item on the agenda has to do with data centers, I think. And so I'm just curious, since you say this plan is forward-looking, is the plan inked and completed before getting enough insight to include the prospects of a data center arriving in the state?
Short answer, yes. I mean, well, in the sense of having real figures and real experiences. I mean, this was prepared and is prepared at the beginning of the year. This is an issue that seems to move at warp speed or even geometrically in the sense that we're just now getting interest from data centers in the state of Delaware, whereas before it might have been a theoretical thing. Now it seems to be becoming real. But we do, as Your Honor noticed, we do have a lot to say about that with the next item.
Okay, and just one question, and then I have a motion, Mr. Chair. When you learn more information, does this get updated? If yes, roughly timeframe?
So the next one, Your Honor, will be early next year. Let me jump ahead to 5 just to answer this question. I know the commission has in front of it with the next order a request to put a freeze on interconnection of any large load users / data centers. And so I think if that is approved and it preserves the status quo, at least that gives the parties some time where it's not a pressing, urgent issue that has to be addressed right away with an amended ISR or something like that. So I think that would buy us enough time to get forward to when the next one gets drafted. Because this is, as you know, it's several hundred, when you combine it all together, it's a lot to prepare.
Understood.
So
that's very helpful. Thanks for that perspective. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we adopt order number 10815 as submitted.
I second the motion.
Discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Crumpler. Number 5 is the petition of Public Service Commission staff and Division of the Public Advocate to require Delmarva Power and Light Company to promulgate a large load tariff. And this is PSC docket number 25-0826. And we have Ms. Workman to kick this off.
Thank you. So this is a joint petition by staff and the DPA. So I'm going to be speaking for staff and the DPA at first, and then I'll have some comments just from staff, and then I'll kick it over to the DPA to add what they feel like they need to add. This petition is in response to the proposed data center in Delaware City and in anticipation of future large load facilities in the state. So staff and DPA submitted this joint petition to request the commission to open a docket and require Delmarva Power to file a large load tariff for customers that will use a monthly maximum demand of 25 megawatts before interconnection of any such facility. The commission has the authority to supervise and regulate public utilities to establish just and reasonable rates, classifications, regulations, practices, measurements, or services, and to require adequate and proper service. The commission also has the authority to take action to ensure electric distribution companies provide adequate and reliable service. Delmarva Power is both a public utility and an electric distribution company, which means they're subject to the authority of the commission in those matters. The proposed data center in Delaware City would consume 1.2 gigawatts, and 1 megawatt or 1 gigawatt is 1,000 megawatts. So it is a very large facility. Currently, Delaware's peak winter and summer loads are 2.4 and 2.7 gigawatts, respectively. So adding this single data center would increase Delaware's load by 50%, which is a huge increase for any state, especially one of our size. And especially for Delaware, which is a net importer of power. The huge load increase calls into question the impact on other customers, both in terms of reliability and the cost of service. In the last 2 years, the PJM capacity auction showed a 1,000% increase in the price of a megawatt. The market monitor for the PJM region found that data center load growth is the primary reason for recent unexpected capacity market conditions, which includes the total forecasted load growth, tight supply and demand, and the high prices. Both national and regional studies have found that the increased costs associated with data centers often shift to the general public, which increases consumer bills. Data centers in the PJM region, according to modeling done by Synapse Energy Economics, will cause residential bills to increase by 10% in the short term and an additional 4% in the long term, which is a huge increase when consumers are already struggling to afford the increased cost of power. Additionally, there's just not enough power in the PJM region to support a data center of this size, and that could end up affecting the reliability of our grid. To address concerns regarding those increased electric costs and reliability issues, it's necessary for facilities that use a disproportionate amount of power to be treated as a separate class with a current or within the current rate structure. Staff and DPA's initial petition, which is filed on DelaFile and was sent to the commissioners, requested that the commission, 1, open a docket, 2, authorize staff to conduct workshops to develop components of a large load tariff, 3, order Delmarva to revise their tariffs regarding large load customers who have a monthly maximum demand of 25 megawatts or greater, and 4, require the revised tariffs be in place before the interconnection of any large load customers. And speaking on behalf of staff, after reading Delmarva's response and their proposed order, staff is willing to acknowledge that Delmarva Power has the right to file a tariff whenever they want, and staff will not push for a collaborative process to happen prior to that filing. However, staff maintains that some mechanism of public comment must be permitted to because this type of tariff is so new, so controversial, and so multifaceted that we want to give the public the ability to address or to give us their concerns so that we can possibly address them, especially because we don't just inherently know all of the concerns that they're going to have, the special concerns of the state of Delaware versus concerns of other states that already have large load tariffs that we could pull from. Again, this staff also objects to Delmarva Power's proposed October 15th timeline to finalize a tariff. Again, this is a multifaceted process that requires input from many stakeholders. It's also a new issue that's being handled very differently in different states. Staff is going to need time to gather input from stakeholders and to properly examine any proposed tariff. A thorough and appropriate tariff for Delaware's unique circumstances and the unique circumstances of this giant data center in relation to the size of our state can't be thoroughly vetted in such a small amount of time. Rather, staff suggests that the commission, 1, order a docket to be opened, 2, order Delmarva Power to file a large load tariff applicable to customers that will use a monthly maximum allowance of 25 megawatts or greater whenever they're ready. And three, order such a tariff to be in place before the interconnection of any large load. And then 4, something that was brought to my attention a couple of hours ago, is that the commission may want to appoint a hearing examiner to handle this docket because it could potentially become very contentious and have multiple interveners. Already, DENREC's State Energy Office has indicated they would intervene in a docket of this type. So I imagine other interveners may come forward, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of thoughts on what we should be including in a tariff, as we've already heard some thoughts today about what should be included during the public comment session. Such an order would allow staff to conduct the tariff filing like any other controversial tariff filing, which could include holding space for public comments and taking a reasonable amount of time to review the tariffs and incorporate feedback from those commenters and possibly other experts. And now I'm going to turn it over to the DPA to supplement with their own comments.
Sure. I echo what Ms. Workman said in terms of some of the procedural matters. And again, the Public Service Commission, as we all are aware, has vested with broad powers and wide discretion. That's true of multiple cases before the Superior Court and the Delaware Supreme Court. Again, as addressed in the petition, large load facilities, particularly large-scale data centers, are expanding on an unprecedented pace, with potential enormous impact on energy supply, energy costs, transmission resources, state energy policy, and grid reliability. Jamison Tweedy, the public advocate, is going to, with the Commission's permission, is going to address some of the trends that we have been seeing in, nationally regarding data centers. I'd like to address somewhat the letter that Delmarva filed before the Commission the other day. One thing that needs to be clear to everyone is that Delmarva says it is fully aligned with the staff and DPA in recognizing large load projects are an emergent issue with potential to affect the cost and capacity across the Delaware service territory. So I think everyone's in agreement that this is a very important issue that we all must address. So while Delmarva acknowledges that there is much at stake and that a large load tariff is necessary, they dispute the wishes of staff and potentially DPA to conduct a workshop on this issue. And while Echelon certainly has experience on data centers and large load tariffs, some of the many issues surrounding the data centers in Delaware are unique to Delaware. The Delaware City proposed data center is ginormous. And I, without getting into details, we had a conversation with an expert yesterday who's well-versed in data centers, and he said, the Delaware City data center specifically is off the charts in terms of comparison with other ones. Now, Delmarva says there are risks involved with such a workshop, which would, they quote, subordinate the company's subject matter expertise in its electrical service to competing concerns by entities whose own political and financial concerns are not necessarily aligned with the company's obligations to provide safe, adequate, and reliable service. We disagree. The point of any workshops is to help facilitate safe and adequate and reliable services for the citizens of this state. Delmarva says such a workshop, and I'm quoting, is not only impermissible and unprecedented, but also introduces unnecessary risks, delays, and inefficiencies. There's no regulations or case law that I'm aware of that prevents such a workshop occurring. If anything, I would think that the Public Service Commission would want all the possible relevant information, important information, when you make a decision regarding a large load tariff. And finally, on the proposal that the large load tariff be proposed or submitted to the Commission on October 15th, DPA adamantly opposes this as a hard, fast rule. Given the complexities of the issue, which Mr. Tweedy is going to address a little more, this is as Delmarva said in their own letter, this is a very complicated, important issue. And it is very unlikely that the Commission will receive all the pertinent information to make a ruling on this on a proposed tariff by October 15th. With that, I'd like to pass it along to the public advocate.
Thank you, Mr. Crumpler, and Chair Winslow and Commissioners. With your permission, I wanted to add a few points just on policy implications around data centers. Ms. Workman and Mr. Crumpler laid out very well our joint petition and the legal basis for it. But I wanted to talk a little more about the policy context and the risks that large load centers like data centers could pose to ratepayers if the costs that are specific to data centers are not carefully managed and apportioned to those data centers. And as Mr. Crumpler said, in my view, the timeline that Delmarva has proposed is not reasonable given the complexity of this issue before us. This is different than any other type of tariff that the Commission has had before. As Mr. Crumpler said, Delmarva does not dispute the importance or the significance of this issue. They explicitly note that, quote, large load users pose a challenge to capacity and existing customers' rates. So that is directly in their letter, the acknowledgement that both capacity and other users' rates are implicated by large load users if we do not develop a large load tariff extremely carefully. Large load facilities, which are almost exclusively data centers, are growing so fast that their impact on the energy sector is unlike anything that has been seen for decades. They're rapidly growing across the country, but especially in the Mid-Atlantic and in the Midwest, in many of the states that are within the PJM region and that may have impacts on Delawareans. If planned carefully, data centers may have the potential to be a positive economic driver, generating construction jobs, tax revenue, and other benefits, although relatively few long-term jobs compared to other industries. But data centers are incredibly energy intensive, as has been mentioned, with large data centers using the same amount of power as a small city or more. Data centers are also being built at a speed that was completely unpredicted by utilities and the grid operators only a few years ago, and far faster than any generation has historically been built. I asked for this slide, which is from a presentation that Sue Glatz and Abe Silverman did for Senator Hansen's stakeholder workshop, Energy Stakeholders Group. And I just wanted to pull up this slide, which is slide 5, which I think is particularly useful on this point. So this slide has a chart of PJM's projections of load growth over time. And so each one of those lines is their projection of load growth across the PJM RTO in a given year. And you'll see that many of those lines are almost flat. So for example, in 2020, 2018, 2022, 2021, all of those lines along the bottom are almost flat, showing that anticipated load growth is basically, for each of those years, when they planned out their models for load growth, they anticipated an almost flat load growth for the region out through the mid-2030s. And then just in the last 2 to 3 years, suddenly those load projections take off. And so you see 2023 now is a little bit higher, but 2024 is a step change above all the others. And 2025 is dramatically higher still. So this is emblematic both of how fast this is changing and that this was completely unanticipated by PJM and utilities just 2 to 3 years ago. They had no conception of what this was going to do. And so in the 2023 forecast, PJM predicted a 2038 peak load of approximately 165,000 megawatts across the PJM region, which was only slightly higher than the levels that were hit over this summer, and a projection of about load growth of about 10,000 megawatts from 2023 out through the early 2030s. But in only 2 years later, the 2025 forecast is now predicting a 2038 peak load of about 215,000 megawatts, or a growth of about 60,000 megawatts, with most of that occurring between now and 2030. 2030. That is not the time frame that you can build generation of this scale, or at least historically, we have not built generation of this scale. So said differently, in 2 years, the amount of load and hence the amount of new generation needed has increased by roughly 600%. And both PJM and the Independent Market Monitor have indicated that data centers are the primary cause of this growth. Bringing on that magnitude of generation on such a rapid time frame will be extremely challenging and potentially extremely expensive. Kate already pointed out the scope of this data center here, which would add almost 50% to peak load for the entire state. The entire state's peak load in the summer is 2.7 gigawatts, and this one data center would be 1.2 gigawatts. It is absolutely unprecedented. So what are some of the risks? Delmarva acknowledges the risks to other customer rates could be impacted. But what that impact will be is extremely hard to predict, which is why we need to understand this issue thoroughly before we order a tariff. Happening literally as we speak, Dominion Energy in Virginia is asking regulators for a $21 per month rate increase. That is over $250 a year to ratepayers. And as you likely know, Northern Virginia is the data center capital of the world, and many commentators, at least, have asserted that this rate increase is largely driven by that expansion of data centers. Delmarva also acknowledges the risk to capacity, and in the PJM region, data centers are already having significant impacts on the capacity market, with significant cost increases that will be borne by ratepayers. Kate mentioned that the PJM capacity auction price has jumped by almost 1,000% over just the past 2 years, and that the Independent Market Monitor has determined that data center, quote, data center load growth is the primary reason for recent and expected capacity market conditions, including total forecast load growth, the tight supply and demand balance, and high prices, end quote. And the Independent Market Monitor estimated that in the capacity market auction that happened last year, about $9.3 billion in increased revenue from that auction was from data centers. This summer's auction happened just a month or so ago, and the prices were even higher, presumably meaning that even more billions are in excess capacity market costs are being driven by data centers. And the trend lines point to even higher demand relative to supply, meaning even tighter markets and presumably even higher costs. And the capacity, those costs don't yet even consider the impact if demand outstrips generation and energy prices start to rise. Indeed, the trend lines are currently for demand, which is primarily driven by data centers, to increase faster than generation is coming online, which is why PJM is in the middle or in the beginning of a critical issue fast path process for large load additions. They have recognized that this is something their existing processes are not able to handle. PJM's initial proposal contemplates that some of this load should be non-capacity backed. That is, PJM is not confident there will be enough generation to meet all this demand in the coming years. And if there's not enough generation to meet demand, that means reliability problems in PJM. There is also the risk that this is a completely new industry. Data centers require potentially massive new investments in transmission and distribution resources, but those assets have a lifetime of decades. As you can see from that chart, this data center industry is new. It is brand new. No one knows what it's going to look like in decades. And so building out transmission and distribution infrastructure and generation that is being calibrated to that type of growth, but has a lifespan of decades, will mean that if anything happens to this industry, it is going to be all of the rest of the ratepayers who bear that cost. So if, God forbid, this data center went bankrupt in 5 years, but all of this transmission and distribution infrastructure has been built, Delawareans will end up paying that cost for decades to come. There's also the other unknown, which is that the data centers could become infinitely more efficient. This is an industry that's rapidly evolving. Chemours has just released a new product that could have huge savings in terms of the heating cost of data centers. And again, if we build out massive infrastructure that is then no longer needed, that cost will be borne by other ratepayers. So what's happening elsewhere? It's worth noting that where data centers are growing fastest, they have come with significant impacts. And various states are now implementing policies around data centers. On either a statewide basis or for individual utilities, states across the country have adopted or have proposed legislation, regulation, settlements, or tariffs to address large load facilities, including at least Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. Yeah. Do I need to slow down? I'm sorry. I will try to slow down.
I'll give you.
What's that? Okay. One thing to note from all these states is that a one-size-fits-all approach is not what they're adopting. Each state is adopting slightly different versions, which means that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to large load facilities. Delmarva's letter notes its expertise on large load facilities, which is wonderful, but that doesn't mean that the expertise they have from other states is necessarily right for Delaware. Delmarva, in their letter, is also requesting that this move at lightning speed, that the commission should have a hearing and a ruling on this tariff by October 15th. And Delmarva also asserts that public comments are not appropriate in their view. But proceedings in other states have taken far longer and have allowed substantial intervention and participation of interested parties. So in Ohio, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio took more than a year and involved a process that included the intervention of almost 20 parties who had the opportunity to comment on the proposal and participate in the docket. This is not something that needs to be rushed. It is not something that should be rushed. If not handled very carefully, data centers pose clear risks to Delaware ratepayers, including higher costs. Without a clear understanding of these risks, we can't be sure that a tariff will prevent the shifting of costs to other ratepayers. And to ensure that the tariff actually requires all data center-related costs to be borne by data centers, we need the time to adequately investigate and consider all the potential costs of data centers on the system, and we need to allow interested stakeholders and experts to provide input into the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 10 minutes, 15 minutes? 10-minute recess. Welcome back. I believe it's Mr. Jordan's turn, right?
It is, Your Honor.
I just want to clarify one legal term. Mr. Crumpler misspoke. It's giganormous.
Just before Mr. Jordan goes, Delmarva did file a petition to intervene.
That's what we're going to discuss.
Thank you.
We're saying with Mr. Jordan.
Thank you.
He's not allowed to speak until we let us speak, right? I understand that Delmarva has filed a motion to intervene. I also understand Mr. Crumpler, no objection. Ms. Workman, no objection. Do the commissioners have any questions about the motion to intervene? Hearing nothing, may we have a motion, Commissioner Gray?
I move that we accept the intervention of Delmarva in this matter.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 It was 4 ayes, and Commissioner Correa had something he had to leave for, so he's not present for the rest of the day. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Brian Jordan here on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. And to my right, I am joined by co-counsel Zhejiang Shen, also here on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. And in the audience, if the commission has any questions, I have a few colleagues. I have Mark Scarano, our Senior Manager of Economic Development, Jay Zeminski, our Director of Regulatory Strategy and Revenue Policy, and Josh Masters, our Senior Manager of Retail Rates. I asked that they be here in case the Commission had questions about Delmarva and Exelon's movement towards getting these tariffs drafted. Let me start and zap the October 15th request because it seems like it was just a misunderstanding amongst the parties. We had proposed October 15th because it was our interpretation or belief that staff and DPA wanted to move this along quickly. If that's not the case, that's not the case, and we're fine with setting a timeline that the Commission is comfortable with past October 15th. Not a problem at all. And Ms. Workman's, Mr. Crumpler, Mr. Tweedy's comments about that are well taken. This is a complex topic, and it deserves to be aired out appropriately. And let me also comment on all of our shared goals, because Ms. Shen and I are here on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. We're not here on behalf of any data center, any large load user, any other interest. We're here on behalf of Delmarva, who, unique to this room, has a legal obligation, unlike anyone else, to provide safe, adequate, and reliable service. And we take that obviously very seriously. And we share all of the concerns that Ms. Workman mentioned, all of the concerns from the public advocate side, that this poses a unique challenge to reliability, to customer rates, and we want to make sure that it gets handled appropriately, but more importantly, it gets handled correctly. And so we join with the request to enter a stay on any interconnection of large load users, 25 or greater, I think was the classification, to give us all the time that we need to make sure that we get this done right and get it done correctly. We join that. We join the rest of the petition as well, but where we diverge is really on the question of process. But I don't think that the gulf between what Delmarva is proposing and what I've heard today is as big as it may appear on paper. And let me start with the point of who gets to draft the tariffs. From our perspective, that is the utility's responsibility, because it is the utility's contract that sets the terms of its service to its customers. And those tariffs are the product of a number of subject matter experts across the utility, from legal to financial to accounting to customer relations to engineering to operations. There is a lot that goes into those tariffs, as it has to, because of the legal obligation we have, as well as the complexity of the system. But also the reality is that Delmarva, as any other utility, has the day-to-day familiarity with what its system can do and what it has to do. And so from our perspective, the way this case should proceed and the way we have it in our order is it starts actually with 26 Del Code 301A. We're not disputing that the Commission has exclusive jurisdiction over public utilities, their rates, and everything else that was included in the petition. But when it comes to the actual tariffs, there is a process there. The Commission has two roles. First, 301A, it can tell us, we want you to file the tariffs. We file the tariffs. The utilities draft the tariffs, and then we propose them to the Commission, where step two comes in. And if it's a tariff with rates on it, we can't put any of that in place until the Commission has approved it and determined, after a hearing, that it's in the public interest and includes just and reasonable rates. And that's the process that we are proposing with our order. There is a space for public participation in there, just like there is in any other case, and that's through a motion to intervene. So, for example, which, of course, we filed to get into this case. If DENREC, the Cecil Rodney Institute, a data center, the University of Delaware, a politician, a community group, an advocacy group, an individual wants to participate in this docket, that person would file a motion to intervene. And I think Ms. Workman pointed out that we would need a hearing examiner, and we agree with that too. The hearing examiner would hear these motions to intervene, and we would handle the case the way we do with other tariff issues. Delmarva drafts it. We circulate it. There's testimony from interveners. It ultimately would go to a hearing examiner, and the hearing examiner would make a recommendation to the commission about what to adopt. And now it may come out that through that process, there is collaboration and compromise. It may come out that there is none of that because everybody agreed ahead of time. But the point I'm getting at is that the party that should be drafting that language is the utility based on its legal obligation and its expertise. And of course, we know as a practical effect, we see it in the rate cases, when there are tariff issues, we have testimony, and the parties have, in my experience, in my 5 years, have always generally agreed on the contents of the tariffs. But it's been Delmarva's prerogative, and that's what we're trying to preserve here. It is our prerogative to do it. And so, if the commission does appoint a hearing examiner, the hearing examiner can schedule public comment sessions. That's fine. Our issue is, though, we cannot have a collectively drafted tariff because it's just not going to be workable. The end result is going to be a little bit of everything, maybe a whole lot of nothing, but how would we actually make it work? That's why we have to have a party who's in charge of that pen. And again, that would be Delmarva. As for these issues, and the reason I brought some colleagues here and the reason we've alluded to other efforts underway in Exelon is and in fact, supporting Mr. Tweedy's comments that Delaware is unique, but we can still learn from experiences in other states as well as how learn from experiences and learn with those experiences. If there are mistakes made, we can try to avoid them here. There may be opportunities to include some of those learnings here. And I would point out, if you look at the petition and all of the jurisdictions that are cited in there, I want to say there's 4 or 5 of them where you have had a tariff approved by a commission. It was a tariff that the utility proposed. It was not something that was, a collectively drafted document. It was something that the utility proposed. And, some of the concerns that we have encountered and that we have taken to address and that we would seek to incorporate into tariffs address a lot of the public concerns that Mr. Tweedy brought up when it comes to rates. For example, the way we describe them is the risk to ratepayers comes from both ghost and zombie data centers. Ghost data centers are the ones who come in and they want to set everything up. We put in the infrastructure and then they never start. They never open their doors. They don't start for business. And we're left with all of this stuff in place that then has to get subsidized. So for example, if one of the things that we're looking at are required letters of credit. If we have to order all of this equipment, it's going to be on the data center to provide a letter of credit. There's also feasibility studies that would be required to show that this center that's coming in is not going to adversely affect or disrupt the reliability of service for others. Zombie data centers, the ones who start and then go out of business and we're left with this infrastructure around. One of the ways to handle that is through a TSA, a transmission security agreement, where we would say to the data center or the large load user that they have got to guarantee a set period of revenue, say 10 years. So if that situation does happen and they do go bankrupt, we can draw on that and the bankruptcy will not have an adverse effect on ratepayers. Those are just some of the examples that we have been looking at internally on this. They're in light of what I think is the other shared concern, that these data centers are coming to the forefront a lot quicker than other issues. We have a group, Operation Cheetah, specifically chosen so we can move on this with that name. And as I mentioned, we can draw on experiences in other states. In fact, the petition itself points to other states. And so we do think that Exelon expertise will be helpful for Delmarva and one of the benefits of having Exelon in our corner here, in all of our corners, frankly. So with that said, I'll end where I began with the reality is I think we all agree with the challenges that the state is facing, that Delmarva will face with this. The proposed order that we submitted, I would submit is closer to what we've talked about today in the sense of it has that specific citation to 301A. I think it also allows for what Ms. Workman had mentioned about it's Delmarva's prerogative to file the tariff. Might need some amending to add the appointment of a hearing examiner. Of course, that hearing examiner would be appropriately delegated to handle motions to intervene, have a public comment session, and then ultimately oversee a hearing, make a recommendation to the commission, and handle it the way that we always have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Any questions of the parties, commissioners? Commissioner Drexler?
Yes. Mr. Jordan, quick question. Has Maryland promulgated any large load tariffs to date, or are they in the process? Is it in the process?
I believe there's actually legislation out of Maryland,
Okay.
but I don't know this. I don't know the status of any of those tariffs in response to the regulation have been adopted
Okay.
as opposed to being worked on.
Is that true as well of Exelon states, other Exelon states, or in your, to your knowledge, are any of the states, have they enacted any of these tariffs?
I believe in Illinois, that ComEd, there have been tariffs. And Your Honor, I'm certainly happy to locate those. I know that there have been examples, and I'm certainly happy to share that with the commission and the parties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Gray does have a question.
Yes.
I have several questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan. Appreciate it. Are there other classes of service that are required to develop and pay for their own energy generation by statute?
In Delaware, by statute,
So if the answer is no, which I assume it is.
I think it's no.
Okay, so if Delaware legislature ultimately requires this, then wouldn't the tariff always then be customized and specific to each data center? Because the parameters of each data center are going to be unique to the data center.
Yeah, and Commissioner Gray, this is a favorite topic of mine to discuss the role between legislation and administrative agencies in the sense of, and we need to see obviously what the legislation said. It could be something broad where the General Assembly says to the Commission, you are authorized to set these terms, please act accordingly. On the other hand, it could say you have to do the following. And the difficulty there is, we don't know yet, but whatever the legislation would say, the tariff could not conflict with it. And we would have to try to, I think the rule of regulatory promulgation and tariff construction would be, it has got to be general enough to cover all of the situations that you could imagine, while also being specific enough to let the company, the staff, and the public advocate know what the rules are and are not. And that takes a lot of intellectual horsepower to put that sort of language together, where you've got to give us the utility, the ability to bring these people on board, but also recognize that if you go too specific, it becomes almost unworkable.
Right. And some of the dynamics around the development of data centers in our space or in our state are as yet undefined. And so I only wanted to make the point here that it may, and this was before you acknowledged that October 15 was not a hard and fast date. I just don't think you could get there by October 15 with all of these unknowns. So I think we agree on that point. I also agree with Ms. Workman and with you that this is a topic, and also with Mr. Tweedy, this is a topic sufficiently complex that I believe a hearing examiner is well indicated for. These facilities, I think, are changing not only our grid, but our technologies, our environment, and our future. And so I think we have to be somewhat deliberate. If I'm going to go hunting with someone, which I don't hunt, but if they took me out and they said, well, the way we're going to do this is you're going to ready, shoot, and then aim, I'd be rather worried. And so I think we really need to take pause. We need step by step and consider these things very carefully before we have enough information to make informed decisions. Now I want to segue to the orders because I think that there's two separate orders. I think your order, you agree that October 15 should be removed, that a hearing examiner should be included. But I have a question that I'm struggling with a little bit because one of the language in the order says those facilities using a maximum of 25 megawatt or greater. And I'm questioning whether or not the language should read minimum of 25 megawatt or greater. Because if you say maximum, that means any and all users under 25 megawatt, and that to me doesn't really seem to be the intent.
And Commissioner Gray, yeah, I'm looking at the orders now, and the full monthly maximum demand of 25 megawatts or greater in DPL service territory. I read that to mean, and I'll defer to Ms. Workman and Mr. Ferguson on the actual meaning, but I read that to mean, all right, up to 25 megawatts and more to basically cover the entire thing. So if somebody, let's say Amazon at Box, I think they have a Boxwood plant now. If they were to come in and say, well, we're already interconnected. Why don't we put our data center in here now? And we're not covered by this because we're already interconnected. That limit, the monthly maximum demand and also the language or greater would cover and prevents, an actor like Amazon from trying to come in and really get in under this this order. That's how I read it. But I'll, like I said, Your Honor, I'll defer to staff on if that's what they meant.
It may not be that we have to work this out and resolve it now, but I see that as a question in my mind, how to interpret the language of that one sentence.
And
Ms. Workman or Mr. Crumpler, please chime in on this, would you?
From staff's perspective, I can certainly get Brian Geller to come up here and explain why we use these words, but my understanding is that we took them from the Ohio tariff.
We did.
Why, I don't know.
That's what they've
That's-
used, and so.
Okay, so that's a legitimate question. We don't have a specific answer for it perhaps right now. What I'm thinking about doing is, Mr. Ferguson is our attorney. So I think we'd make some decisions here and then allow him to talk back and forth with the parties and get this order so it's presented to us very shortly. And I guess I heard Mr. Jordan on the issue of who writes the tariff. And what response do I have from is that true? The Delmarva usually writes the tariff?
Yes.
And if that's the case, why will we do it differently in this case?
The idea was to include a collaborative process, and staff's goal was to make that process meaningful in some way, because when there is collaboration, there can always be ignoring of the collaboration by whoever is writing the tariff. However, staff is willing to concede that Delmarva can write the tariff, and then we proceed as we would with other tariffs to, give it over to the hearing examiner, possibly have a public comment session, whatever we feel is necessary at that time.
At the workshop issue.
The workshop issue is, I think staff's willing to do that after Delmarva has already filed their tariff. So, obviously staff would prefer to have more input and more in the drafting of the tariff, but I can see to Delmarva's point that the language of 301A really puts the onus on the utility to draft the tariff. And I don't think it's unlawful for the commission to allow more collaboration in that, because again, the commission has this broad authority over public utilities. However, we're willing to concede that Delmarva Power can draft the tariff, and then we put our collaborative process in the middle instead of at the beginning.
Mr. Jordan, we don't want to set up a process where this is going to go into, go on forever. It's an important issue and we need to resolve it as quickly as possible. But, staff doesn't have has less experts in this area than you have. And on the other hand, we need to have some independent, objective looks at what you're proposing as a tariff and what's coming to hit us shortly. So having a workshop would permit other experts to come in who may have very good observations for us to consider that maybe the company nor staff nor DPA have thought of. Wouldn't it be beneficial to have some input like that at some point in time in the process?
That is correct, Your Honor. And the point that we're making is that the petitions to intervene, that's where it comes in, and parties can submit testimony and submit discovery, and we can get that tariff together. It's just because I mentioned earlier about our obligations under the law. It's our duty to write it and then submit it and allow staff, the public advocate, and any interveners, and if there's a public comment session too, to submit their input, and then we can look at it and see where we can work together, and handle it the way that we would do if it were proposed in a rate case, as opposed to, like I mentioned, a public workshop. I think that gets handled through a public comment session, but to get there, we have to have something drafted first. And again, I think it's the public utilities prerogative to get that together. And I think Commissioner Gray put it better than I did about the ready, aim, shoot. Ready, shoot, aim, excuse me. We got to get this done correct from the beginning, because if we don't, and we find ourselves, at the end of a year with a tariff that's simply not workable, that's going to be a difficult situation for all of us. So it's not that we're against public participation at all. It's just, it should be Delmarva's prerogative to draft the tariff, and then we can start to work in comments from others.
Well, you saw what happened today, right? We had an hour and some minutes of public comment, and I would just guess, and it was great public comment, I really enjoyed it, but I guess maybe 50% of it really wasn't relevant. Okay, so having a workshop, I think that would give staff the control to say, no, you can't attend, you don't have any expertise or whatever. But yes, you can, because you are a electric engineer, I don't know the particulars, but you could narrow the participation down, I think, a lot, and have a more relevant discussion, before you get too far down the road, and that way you could incorporate whatever good comes out of it into your tariff after the fact. I don't know, but Mr. Crumpler, what does DPA think about this issue?
Chair Winslow, what you just said, I completely agree with. I think a workshop, it focuses on the relevant information. We're not trying to just have quote unquote open-ended conversations. We're trying to get to the relevant information, have particular experts from outside Delmarva that might have good perspectives that will eventually relate to a tariff that will be good for everyone involved. So I think your comments are well taken.
Ms. Workman?
Again, that would be staff's preference, but we recognize that historically and in most cases, the utility is the one doing the tariff, doing the drafting and submitting it. And then, the editing and the public commenting and collaboration has traditionally come afterwards. But again, I don't have a legal objection, and that would be staff's preference.
Commissioners, I would propose that we have Mr. Ferguson write the order based upon the two present orders and also the considerations we've just talked about, including the language in the statute, the hearing examiner, workshop. What did I just miss? I missed
Moving October 15th.
moving October 15th. On the other hand, we don't want to prolong this too long, because I still want to be around when this ends up. I'll be around, hopefully, but Ferguson, is that enough direction for you?
I believe so. When would the workshops take place?
Yes, that's a good idea. Work on that for us, please.
Well, I guess,
Actually, I mean,
A hearing examiner
you
could,
guys will know better. Hearing
Yeah.
examiner could,
yeah, I would think the hearing examiner come up with that. From my perspective, I'm not sure, Mr. Chair, that you're asking for a revised order today, or we get a,
not today, no.
okay, good, perfect, that'd be great, thanks.
Mr. Ferguson is good, but he just has the
a
resources.
little
to
worried
make
there.
Missed to pick up my kids.
that. Well, that certainly is a priority.
Mr. Chair, I think there might be one thing though, and that is to get the, and I would defer to Mr. Ferguson on the legal underpinnings for if the commission can take a voice vote on what we all agree on, at least on a stay for interconnection until tariffs are in place, because I know our next meeting's not until October 15th. You know, I don't anticipate anything being ready before then, but that seems to be an issue where if we get that in place, it at least opens us all up with, you know, a little bit more time.
Yeah, I don't think there's any issue with that. I think that's in. That's in,
The parties agree to it.
yes.
So are you looking for an order,
Yeah, I didn't
Motion.
know if the commission had the authority to act, like I said, make a voice order that's, you know, as of today, no interconnection of
25 megawatts or
25
greater?
megawatt or greater until tariffs are in place, to get that done before October 15th.
Well, I tell you, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that given the circumstances and the importance of the issue, that we could make that part of the motion, that we adopt that provision immediately. And unless a party has an objection and wants to tell me what the objection might be. I don't see any objection, so we'll make make that part of the order. And we'll put Mr. Ferguson in charge of those issues. And if something comes up that the parties agree to that we haven't mentioned for some reason, you think it's important to be in the order, put it in, and then we can always look at what the additions are down the road, because we'll have to approve it again once we have it physically in front of us.
One clarification, Mr. Chair. Mr. Jordan, did I understand you to ask the commission today to agree no interconnection of 25 megawatts or greater until such time that we get this revised order by October 15th?
The first half, I agree with. It would be more, you wouldn't put a specific date.
Yep.
It would be until tariffs are approved by the commission. So there would be a part of the motion and order today would say, you know, no interconnection.
That language is in the orders, both orders.
Yeah, and that's what,
You all can work on the language, and the bottom line is we do not want anything accomplished on this until we have the work done, so to speak.
and the language specifically says, quote, and this is in paragraph 4 of the actual order underneath the whereas clauses, that such revised tariff must be in place prior to the interconnection of any prospective large load customers who forecast or plan to use a monthly maximum demand of 25 megawatts or greater in DPL service territory and not already interconnected as of the date of this order. That's the language I was thinking for today to put in place, to put that freeze and preserve the status quo.
I adopt that as part of my motion.
Second?
Is that's the second on the entire thing, I guess, Commissioner Gray? Entire motion?
That's what you moved, yes.
Yes, yes. Is there any more discussion on the path forward? I don't. Pardon me? We're voting to have an order, another order prepared, a combination of the two orders. There'll be a new order agreed upon by the parties. And the considerations in that order have been placed on the record. I don't think it's necessary in the minutes to go into specifics, but we will have a new order rather than the 2 orders we have on the table today. And that order will encompass, include the discussion items we just got finished talking about. In other words, whatever Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Crumpler, and Ms. Workman come up with will be before us October 15th. Yeah, we got a second, yeah.
Yeah, aye.
What are you whispering?
We're
Can
voting.
you vote on the motion?
Yeah, we're gonna vote on the motion, yeah.
What did I?
We're just looking around, see if there's nobody else want to make any comments, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 ayes, 1 person absent, and a sigh of relief that we've gotten that behind us. Thank you all very much for really good work and thought and discussion on the issues. The commission appreciates it.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we only have a hearing scheduled that people have been patiently waiting for. The first is in the matter of the adoption of rules to establish an excavation damage prevention program. And we have Ms. Workman on that one, please.
Thank you. Regulation 8002 regarding the adoption of rules to establish an excavation damage prevention program, formerly docket number 19-0713, was published in the August Register of Regulations pursuant to Commission Order number 10750. The amendments are primarily to fix the way the Commission accepts payments of fines as the result of consent agreements to bring it into best practices across the state. Additionally, the amendments reformat the regulations to make them easier to follow. Public notice was posted on the website and in the August Register of Regulations. Public comments to be considered at the meeting must have been submitted by August 27th, 2025. To date, staff has received no public comments. At this time, I would like to invite any members of the public who have come today to comment on the proposed regulation to step forward and share their comments with the Commission. Anyone who provides public comment, please identify yourself for the record. Do we have anyone here who would like to provide public comment on the proposed regulation? Seeing no one. Pursuant to 29 Delaware Code 10118A, the public comment period will remain open for an additional 15 days, and written comments will be accepted by the Commission. That concludes our public comment session. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Mr. Drexler?
I move that we adopt the rules, the new rules.
No, we're not adopting the rules today. We have to leave the public comment session open for 15 more days. You'll see it at the next meeting. There is no motion. This is just the hearing. We have to have it because the law says so.
Okay, then.
We can move on to the next one.
We can move on. Okay. Number 2 is in the matter of the revision to the rules of practice and procedures of the Delaware Public Service Commission. Ms. Workman.
Regulation 1001 regarding the rules and practices and procedure of the Delaware Public Service Commission, formerly docket number 99-9, was published in the August Register of Regulations pursuant to Commission Order number 10749. The amendments are primarily to give staff flexibility in the transcription of hearings. The amendments remove the requirement that a court reporter must transcribe the hearings and allows more flexibility for the Commission to hold hearings without a court reporter. The plan, of course, is to still use a court reporter. This is just for emergencies like what happened a few months ago when we did not have a court reporter present. Additionally, amendments were made to bring the regulation into compliance with the registrar's most recent style guide put out in May of 2025. Public notice was posted on the website and in the August Register of Regulations. Public comments to be considered at the meeting must have been submitted by August 27th, 2025. To date, staff has received no public comments. At this time, I would like to invite any members of the public who have come today to comment on the proposed regulation to step forward and share their comments with the Commission. Anyone who provides public comment, please identify yourself for the record. Seeing no one who wants to provide public comment, pursuant to 29 Delaware Code 10118, the public comment period will remain open for an additional 15 days, and written comments will be accepted by the commission. That concludes our public hearing. Thank you.
You. Number 3 is in the matter of the provision of renewable energy portfolio standards compliance charge to retail customers in the service territory of Delmarva Power and Light Company for RPS year 25-26. And we have Mr. Jordan for this matter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Brian Jordan on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. This is docket number 25-0317, and this is Delmarva's annual application for the Renewable Portfolio Standards, or RPS charge, for the period of June 1, 2025 through May 31, 2026. On March 27th, 2025, Delmarva filed its annual RPS application, the purpose of which is to update the electric tariff rates for the RPS charge for the period I just mentioned, June 1, 2025 through May 31, 2026. I want to start with expressing my gratitude to the other parties, staff and the public advocate, for their efforts in this docket, and also thanks to staff for preparing the proposed order and the staff memo, and for allowing us the opportunity to comment on that. Today, I will present Fang Zhang as our witness to support Delmarva's RPS application. She is seated, to the right of me, and we will ask that the Commission approve the proposed order. Now, prior to offering Ms. Zhang, there is a matter I would like to address up front, and that is to move in. We have an exhibit log that was uploaded. It has 6 exhibits, and we would move all of those exhibits into evidence. I don't believe that there is any opposition to that.
Is there any objection to the admission of those exhibits?
No objection.
No objection.
The exhibits are admitted without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with that, I will call Delmarva's first and only witness, Fang Zhang.
I do.
Okay. Ms. Zhang, please state and spell your name for the record.
Fang Zhang, Fangzhang.
And by whom are you employed?
EHI Service Company, primarily on behalf of Delmarva Power. My business address is 500 North Wakefield Drive, Newark, Delaware 19702.
What is your job title?
Senior Rate Analyst of Regulatory Pricing.
And how long have you been in that position?
Over 1 year in this specific position, but I have been with the family of company for over 8 years in various roles, mostly in accounting positions.
What is your educational background?
I hold a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Towson University. I'm also a certified public accountant in the state of Maryland.
Ms. Zhang, were you involved in the preparation of the filing in this docket that the company submitted to the Commission on March 27, 2025?
Yes, I'm primarily responsible for this filing.
Can you briefly explain the purpose of this filing?
The purpose of this filing is to revise the electric tariff rates for the Renewable Portfolio Standards, RPS charge, for the period of June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026. The revised rates include the estimate for the project period plus prior period true-ups for over or under recovered balances.
And Ms. Zhang, what was the filing composed of?
The filing was composed of revised tariff rate sheets, RPS charge calculations, rate change percentage, and supporting work papers.
Was the methodology consistent with prior years?
Yes,
In connection with this filing, did you schedule a meeting with commission staff and the Division of the Public Advocate to review all of the documents associated with the filing?
yes, we hold a technical conference where the video conference on June 16th, 2025, and later answered both formal and informal discovery questions.
Was notice of this application published as required by order number 10679?
Yes, the company posted notice of the application on its website, delmarva.com. The notice was on the company website from April 30, 2025 through June 11, 2025.
Were notices of the application also filed by staff?
Yes, according to my knowledge, staff published notice of the application to its website on May 1st, 2025.
Was there a notice of this evidentiary hearing published?
Yes, according to my knowledge, staff published a notice of this evidentiary hearing on its website starting on July 15, 2025.
Are these rates currently in effect?
Yes, these charge rates were put into effect on a temporary basis on June 1st, 2025, as authorized by order number 10679.
Has staff determined that the commission should approve as final the rates that went into effect on a temporary basis on June 1, 2025?
Yes, Mr. Felsman's memo dated August 27, 2025, recommends that the rates be approved as final.
What is the bill impact to customers as a result of this filing?
A typical residential customer using 811 kilowatt hour per month on average have seen a decrease of approximately 47 cents per month. To be clear, should the commission elect to enter proposed order number 10804, the rates currently in effect will not change and will not decrease any further.
Ms. Zhang, in your opinion, are the RPS rates in the public interest and fair and reasonable?
Yes,
Do you have any further testimony at this time?
no,
Thank you, Ms. Zhang. Delmarva makes Ms. Zhang available for cross-examination.
Any questions?
No questions from staff.
Questions from DPA?
Ms. Workman?
Staff is going to call our first and only witness, Mr. Nate Felsman, and ask that he be sworn in. Please state your name and address.
My name is Nate Felsman. My business address is 861 Silver Lake Boulevard, Suite 100, Dover, Delaware, 19904.
Who is your current employer and what is your position title?
I am employed by the Delaware Public Service Commission as a public utility analyst.
What is your educational and professional background?
I have a bachelor's degree in energy, business, and finance from Penn State, and I have been an analyst with the commission for about 1 year.
What was your role in docket number 25-0317?
I was the case manager for this docket filing.
What is this particular proceeding for?
On March 27th, 2025, Delmarva Power filed the application for approval of the 2025 Renewable Portfolio Standard, or RPS rate charge. According to the company's tariffs, the rate went from 0.006367 cents per kilowatt hour to 0.005795 cents per kilowatt hour, a decrease of approximately 9%. The commission approved the proposed rates on a temporary basis with proration, subject to refund, in order number 10679, dated April 23rd, 2025.
What is the monthly bill impact of the rate decrease?
For a residential customer with an average usage of 811 kilowatt hours per month, they will see a decrease of 47 cents per month.
Please summarize the Renewable Portfolio Standards Act.
As explained on DENREC's website, Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act is intended to establish a market in Delaware for electricity from renewable sources and to lower the cost of renewable energy to consumers. The Act allows utilities to meet their portfolio standards by buying renewable energy credits, RECs, and solar renewable energy credits, SRECs, from wind, solar, and other renewable sources. Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act includes minimum percentages of electric energy sales with eligible energy resources and solar renewable energy resources. These percentages increase yearly up to year 2035. Companies procure RECs, SRECs, and any other attributes to comply with the minimum percentages in the Act. The cost of compliance is reflected in the annual rate filed by Delmarva.
What was the nature of your review?
I attended a technical conference with Delmarva Power and the DPA on May 16th, 2025. I reviewed calculations, invoices, and worksheets comprising the summation of the RPS rate.
What did you find as part of your analysis?
After reviewing the submitted documentation and the company's native files, I found no substantive errors. I did find that based on Delmarva's forecasts that they will be unable to obtain at least 85% of the required number of RECs for the 2024 to 2025 compliance year at a price below the $25 alternative compliance payment price established in 26 Del Code 358.
Please explain the purpose of the alternative compliance payment.
The alternative compliance payment, or ACP, is a set dollar amount per megawatt hour the company may submit in lieu of supplying the minimum percentage of renewable energy as set in Delaware's RPS. This price is currently set at $150 per megawatt hour for SRECs and $25 per megawatt hour for RECs. The alternative compliance payment price was set to help control Delmarva's compliance cost and ultimately help control impacts to ratepayers. If Delmarva is unable to purchase the necessary SRECs or RECs to comply with the yearly RPS target at a price below the ACP set prices, then Delmarva may pay the alternative compliance payment to DENREC's Green Energy Fund for the difference.
Based on your review, what is the projected shortage?
Based on the review of the application, Delmarva is projecting a shortage of 500,000 RECs or more for the June 2024 through May 2025 compliance year, which equates to an alternative compliance payment of approximately $13 million. They will file their RPS compliance report for the 2024 to 2025 compliance year by September 30th, 2025, which will indicate the actual shortage and payment amount.
What is the impact of the ACP payment on Delmarva's RPS compliance?
This will be the third consecutive year that Delmarva is unable to obtain at least 85% of the required number of RECs below the $25 price and will be making an ACP payment. As a result, the provisions of 26 Delaware Code 358D remain in effect. In essence, the percentage freezes and yearly increases have stopped. Delmarva will remain frozen at the 2023 level, which is 20% for RECs. This freeze remains in place until a compliance year in which the company is able to obtain more than 85% of the RECs of the required RECs below the $25 ACP price.
What impact does the freeze have on solar renewable energy resources?
Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards provides the minimum percentage per year of electricity sales from renewable sources. It explicitly states the total in a carve-out of solar. The freeze that occurred is in place for the non-solar only or RECs. The solar renewable energy resources will still continue to increase yearly as outlined in 26 Del Code 354. So the Delaware solar industry should not be impacted by the REC freeze.
Did you receive any public comments pertaining to this application?
Staff received no public comments.
What are your recommendations?
Staff respectfully recommends that the Commission approve as final the RPS charge rate that went into effect on a temporary basis on June 1st, 2025, with proration for the period from June 1st, 2025 to May 31st, 2026.
Do you believe that your recommendation will result in rates that are just and reasonable and in the public interest?
Yes, I do.
Does this conclude your testimony?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Mr. Felsman is available for cross-examination.
Does anybody wish to cross-examine Mr. Felsman? Doesn't seem like there is anybody.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question for him, if you don't mind. It's a very short question, if you don't mind, please. Mr. Felsman, do you, the PSC staff or DPL, analyze the percent of the RPS that's acquired by in-state versus out-of-state generators?
No.
Okay, thank you. No further question.
Question, how many times have you testified before the commission?
First time.
I want you to know you did an excellent job, and we sincerely appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Mr. Jordan?
Mr. Chair, I wanted to point out also that this is Ms. Zhang's first time to testify in front of the commission.
Board, yeah. Welcome aboard. And you also did an excellent job, so thank you. Okay, commissioners, do we have anything else? I guess we have Mr. Crumpler. Did I ask for you yet? No questions, okay. Mr. Gray? Mr. Gray?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt order number 10804 submitted.
Second the motion?
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes and one absent. The motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Noyes, are you, do you want to say a few words while you're here? I don't know if you're waiting to speak and then leave, or if, I don't want to. We don't want you to leave. That's not my point, right? But I don't want to make you stay here if you wanted to say something.
I actually have business in front of this commission
Well, I think you had coming up. I see.
coming up, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's make sure. Okay, I think we're on number 4. In the matter of application of Delmarva Power and Light Company for approval of the 2025 program, the procurement of solar renewable energy credits. And we have a new proposed order number. It's 10820. Mr. Jordan, I believe, is first. I'm sorry, Ms. Shen is first.
No worries. Good afternoon, Chair Winslow, Commissioners. Again, Zishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. With me today is Dan Curtis, Manager of Gas Acquisition for Delmarva Power. We thank the Commission for the opportunity to present our application for the 2025 Solar Renewable Energy Credit, or SREC, procurement program. The application was filed by Delmarva Power on July 2nd. The 2025 application included a program outline for the 2025 program, proposed form of the SREC transfer agreement, and a red line showing changes from the 2024 program. Delmarva Power filed an amended application on July 16th, which corrected certain language in the documents to reflect updates to this year's program, which were overlooked in the original application, and we thank staff for pointing those out. Delmarva Power published notice of today's hearing on its website on July 24th and filed an affidavit of publication on July 29th. Before we turn to witness testimony, I would like to request permission to present to the Commission the exhibit log containing pre-filed exhibits. The company and staff have agreed on the admission of these exhibits, and I have copies if the Commission needs any.
Thank you very much. The exhibits are admitted without objection.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Dan Curtis as the witness and the only witness on behalf of Delmarva Power and ask that he be sworn in.
I do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Daniel P. Curtis,
By whom are you employed?
Delmarva Power.
Mr. Curtis, what do you do for Delmarva Power?
I'm the manager of gas acquisitions in our energy acquisition department.
And what does that role entail?
I'm responsible for developing and managing safe, adequate, and reliable gas and renewable supply portfolios for Delmarva Power's customers.
How long have you been with the company?
24 years.
As part of your duties and responsibilities, do you serve as a representative of Delmarva Power on the Renewable Energy Task Force?
Yes, I do.
What is the purpose of the Renewable Energy Task Force?
The task force was established by law to make recommendations about the SREC procurement program and other emergent renewable energy topics.
And did you participate as the company's representative in the task force meetings and discussions that took place to develop the 2025 SREC procurement program?
Yes, I did.
Did the task force take a vote in connection with this application?
Yes,
Was the vote taken at a public meeting?
yes.
And did anyone provide public comments at the public meeting where the vote was taken?
No.
Was the vote unanimous?
Yes, it was unanimous with all members voting in support of the 2025 application, including support from PSC staff, DPA, DENREC, and a representative from Delaware Solar Energy Coalition.
Before we discuss the specifics of the 2025 program, can you provide some background about the 2024 auction?
The 2024 auction went smoothly and had robust bid activity. Final pricing came in at approximately $43, which, as with past years, is below and in some cases significantly lower than the SREC prices paid for that period in adjacent states.
When did Delmarva file the 2025 application?
July 2nd, 2025, Delmarva then filed an amended application, July 16th, 2025.
Mr. Curtis, can you describe what has changed between the 2024 SREC procurement program and the 2025 program?
The primary differences between 2024 program and the 2025 program include the following. First, the 2025 program combines the previously designated alpha and beta tiers into one tier, now named Tier 1. And Tier 1 removes the customer ownership requirements that were previously part of the alpha and beta tiers. Second, the 2025 program removes the system size restrictions in the previously designated Delta tier, now named Tier 3. Third, the 2025 program reduces the deposit amount for systems without interconnection approval from $100 per kilowatt to $50 per kilowatt. Additionally, the task force resolved to file the application and announced the auction earlier compared to the timeline for last year's program.
Can you describe the rationale for making these changes?
Yes, the purpose for these changes is to encourage greater participation in the auction.
And how many SRECs does Delmarva intend to acquire through the auction?
For the 2025 auction, Delmarva intends to procure a minimum of 11,000 SRECs and a maximum of 31,000 SRECs.
From what tiers can Delmarva Power acquire those SRECs?
From Tier 1, Delmarva may acquire 11,000 SRECs. From Tier 2, Delmarva may acquire 10,000 SRECs. From Tier 3, Delmarva may acquire 10,000 SRECs. A note that after Tier 1 has been filled with winning bids, Delmarva, at its discretion, may purchase up to an additional 10,000 SRECs from Tier 2 and or lowest priced losing bid from any tier except Tier 3, with its maximum purchase not to exceed 31,000 SRECs. This information is set forth on a chart included in our application at page 18 and described on pages 19 through 20, and is also set forth in the staff's memo on pages 3 through 4.
And are there any provisions of the program that remain the same from the 2024 auction?
The task force generally retained the structure and processes of the 2024 program. As with the 2024 program, the 2025 program, first, the program still requires a 25-year contract term for Tier 1, previously Alpha and Beta tiers, and Tier 2, previously Gamma tier. And the first 10 years will be compensated at the per SREC auction price. Second, the program provides for a 5-year contract for Tier 3, previously Delta tier, at the per SREC auction price. Third, the program still contains a limitation that bids rejected for price in any tier cannot be used to backfill another tier. Fourth, the program has in-state siting requirement for Tier 1 and Tier 3. And last, the program still requires community solar projects enter the appropriate tier based on their system size attributes and other system criteria.
Did any party seek to intervene in this matter?
Yes, the DPA filed a statutory notice of intervention on July 17th, 2025. DENREC also filed a petition for intervention on August 22nd, 2025.
Were any comments filed in response to this application?
No.
Did staff prepare a memorandum for the commission concerning this matter?
Yes, staff prepared a memo dated August 27th, 2025.
Did staff reach any conclusions in its memo?
Yes, staff's memo indicates that staff supports the changes to the procurement process set forth in Delmarva's 2025 application and recommends that the commission approve the application.
Thank you. Mr. Curtis is available for cross-examination.
Any questions?
No questions from staff.
No questions from DEA.
I'm not sure who's going to go next. How about,
I'm taking this one. Staff calls its first and only witness, Mr. Brian Geller. Would request that the witness be sworn in, please.
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Brian Geller. My address is 861 Silver Lake Boulevard, Suite 100, Dover, Delaware, 19904.
Who is your current employer and what is your position title?
I'm employed by the Delaware Public Service Commission as a public utility analyst.
What is your educational and professional background?
I have a bachelor's degree in business from Pierce College, and I've been an analyst with the commission since November of 2023. I have over 10 years' experience in analyzing financial statements and reviewing documents for compliance with regulations and applicable laws.
What was your role in docket number 250638?
I was the case manager in this docket filing. I reviewed the application for Delmarva's 2025 SREC procurement program, and I attended the Renewable Energy Task Force meeting where the program was discussed.
Can you please describe the purpose and intent of Delmarva's filing?
On July 2nd, 2025, Delmarva filed the initial application for the approval of the 2025 program for the procurement of solar renewable energy credits, or SRECs for short. They filed an amended application on July 16th, 2025, making a correction to one portion of the application language. The purpose of this filing is to provide Delmarva the opportunity to meet its SREC obligations as defined in Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act through long-term contracts. 2025 program is a continuation of the 2012 pilot program through the 2021 procurement program. The 2025 program allows Delmarva to leverage in-state and out-of-state SRECs in an auction format, thereby minimizing program costs and costs to ratepayers. With much uncertainty regarding the future of SREC prices, the 2025 program allows Delmarva to hedge against future price increases.
Besides giving Delmarva the ability to hedge, are there any other benefits associated with the 2024 program?
Yes, the 2025 program also provides homeowners who have elected to purchase solar panels a potential revenue stream to help offset project costs. The program extends that same potential revenue stream to larger commercial and utility scale solar systems, both in-state and out-of-state. Community energy facilities may also participate in the auction, creating an additional revenue stream for projects. This incentivizes solar adoption.
Delmarva has asked the Commission in prior years to approve the SREC programs. How is the 2025 program different from the 2024 program approved by the Commission in order number 10535?
The primary differences are as follows. They combine the previous alpha tier and beta tier into a single tier, remove the ownership requirements for that new tier, remove the system size restriction in the new tier 3, reduce the deposit amount for systems without interconnection approval from $100 per kilowatt to $50 per kilowatt, renaming of the auction tiers. Tier 1 which is the new combined tier, formerly alpha and beta. Tier 2, formerly known as gamma, and Tier 3, formerly known as delta.
Why were these changes made to the 2025 program?
The alpha and beta tiers were combined into the new Tier 1. The tiers were undersubscribed in previous years, so the decision was made to combine the tiers into one tier. This also resulted in removal of the customer ownership requirement, allowing for participation of systems where the customer does not own the solar array and the property where it is located. The new Tier 3 removed the system size restriction, which was systems greater than 2 megawatts. This tier has a 5-year contract, so removal of the system size allows for any size system to participate for the shorter 5-year contract, providing more options for all participants. The deposit amount for systems without interconnection approval was changed from $100 per kilowatt to $50 per kilowatt as a result of feedback received last year from the community solar developers.
Can you please describe the basic format and details of the auction?
The program has 3 auction tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Each tier has its own specific requirements for eligibility. Tier 1 is for new in-state systems less than or equal to 2 megawatts. This tier has a 25-year contract. Tier 2 is for any systems less than or equal to 5 megawatts. This tier has 25-year contracts. And Tier 3 is for new in-state systems of any size, and this tier has 5-year contracts. For the 2025 program, new systems are defined as having interconnection approval date on or after November 15th, 2024, which was the date of the last auction. The total number of SRECs to be purchased is between a minimum of 11,000 to a maximum of 31,000.
You mentioned the Renewable Energy Task Force. What is this task force and what role did it play in the development of the 2025 program?
The 2025 program was designed and refined over many months by the Renewable Energy Task Force. The task force is a group legislatively mandated to make recommendations about the establishment of trading mechanisms and other structures to support the growth of renewable energy markets in Delaware. The task force is made up of cross-functional members that include state agencies, utilities, the sustainable energy utility, and the solar industry. All parties here today, staff, the DPA, Delmarva, and DNREC are active participants on the task force. All task force meetings are conducted in a public forum.
The task force recommend the approval of the 2025 program.
Yes, the 2025 program had a supermajority of support from the task force.
Was the public made aware of this filing and given the opportunity to file comments?
Yes, pursuant to Commission Order 10774, Delmarva published public notice on their website of its application and of the time, date, and location of the evidentiary hearing today. Staff also had the public notice posted to the Commission website, and the evidentiary hearing was also published to the State of Delaware public meeting calendar. No public comments were received.
What are your recommendations?
Staff supports the approval of Delmarva's application for the 2025 program because it aligns with the Renewable Energy Task Force's recommendation and it complies with the Delaware Code, Commission regulations, prior Commission orders, and applicable laws. It is for these reasons that staff respectfully recommends that the Commission approve the 2025 program.
Do you believe that your recommendations are in the public interest and will result in rates that are just and reasonable?
Yes, I do. I would like to note as well that if the 2025 program is not approved, Delmarva would still be required to purchase SRECs pursuant to its RPS obligations. These purchases would have to be made in the SREC spot market, where prices can vary widely from month to month.
Does this conclude your testimony?
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Mr. Geller. Mr. Geller is available for cross-examination.
Any questions?
No questions from Delmarva.
No questions from DNREC.
Questions from the PA.
I guess DNREC is up next, or?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm a Deputy Attorney General representing DNREC. And here with me today is Tom Noyes, Administrator of DNREC State Energy Office. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Noyes as a witness on behalf of DNREC and ask that he be sworn in.
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Noyes, could you please state your name and workplace for the record?
My name is Thomas Noyes. I'm employed by the DNREC State Energy Office located in the Division of Climate, Coastal, and Energy. Oh, and he's We have a good working relationship among state agencies here. Yes. Where was I? Yes. Our office is located at 100 West Water Street in Dover.
What do you do at DENREC?
I'm administrator of the DENREC State Energy Office, responsible for energy policies and programs. Appearing in lieu of Janet Redman, a policy planner in our office who staffs the Renewable Energy Task Force, and unfortunately called in sick today.
What are your qualifications to testify on this matter?
I've worked in the DENREC State Energy Office for 14 years. I've worked with the Renewable Energy Task Force since its inception, first as a member, then as staff, and currently as chair. I've appeared before this commission numerous times on this and other matters. My experience in government administration and policy stretches back into the previous century, and I have an MBA in finance from the University of Delaware.
What is the purpose of your testimony today?
I will first describe the work of the task force in developing the SREC procurement program and conclude by recommending that the Commission approve Delmarva's application as meeting the requirements and policy objectives of the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act.
What is the task force's statutory mandate?
I think a couple of other witnesses have touched on this, so very briefly, the task force is charged with offering recommendations for the Commission based on the statutory mandates found in Section 360 of REPSA.
How has solar grown since the inception of the task force?
Solar in Delaware has grown from 818 installations totaling 8.8 megawatts at the end of 2010 to more than 10,000 installations totaling more than 242 megawatts at the end of 2024, according to PSC certification records.
Could you please describe the role of the Renewable Energy Task Force in developing the 2025 SREC program?
Task Force meets monthly and met monthly between January and June of this year to develop the SREC program. At the outset, we considered issues relating to the 2024 auction and collaborated to develop clarifications and improvements for 2025. Our goal, one of our principal goals, is to draw more bidders in this new auction. We made minimal changes to the auction structure to first maintain consistency and to not significantly delay the next auction.
What has changed from previous auctions?
You know, we've gotten very good testimony from two other witnesses on this, and I would also add that the staff memo on this subject was very thorough, typically thorough, and I don't have anything to add.
Could you please report on how many SRECs are being provided by the pre-buy program?
Pre-buy program provides that grant recipients from our green energy program agree to transfer their SRECs to Delmarva Power. Delmarva Power, at no additional cost to Delmarva Power. Delmarva just pays what I call the shipping and handling, the processing cost, which is run through the Sustainable Energy Utility. DPL informs us that the company has retired more than 36,000 SRECs in the last 3 compliance years. These are SRECs that Delmarva doesn't have to buy through the auction or the spot market. So we think this has been a terrific success.
Could you please summarize your testimony?
Task Force has refined the previous SREC procurement plan through the stakeholder process that builds on the experience of the last 14 years, supports a stable market for installations of all sizes, and balances REPSA's key policy considerations. The DENREC State Energy Office respectfully requests that the Commission take note of the consensus we have forged and approve the 2025 SREC program as consistent with REPSA precedent and is in the public interest.
Does that conclude your testimony?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Noyes is available for cross-examination.
No questions from staff.
No questions from DPA.
No questions from Delmarva.
I believe that completes the testimony. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the parties? Commissioner Conaway?
Move that we adopt order number 10820 as presented.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 4 ayes, 1 absent. The motion carries. We have, I think, thank you all very much for that. Appreciate it. We have Ms. Gannon to inform the commission, I believe, about solar community and what's happening in the future.
Good afternoon, or is it evening?
Good afternoon.
As the memo explains, my nice succinct memo, I'm here to respectfully ask the commissioners to approve the formation of a working group focused on community solar. Currently, community solar issues come up in meetings such as the Renewable Energy Task Force, the Energy Stakeholders Group. This working group would allow us to focus those discussions and delve into the details so we can develop recommendations that can be implemented. It will be open to the community solar industry, policy managers, developers, subscription managers, to those who help develop the program and the regulations, and that includes Delmarva, DPA, and DNREC. So may I create a working group?
Anybody have any questions?
Just a comment. I think given the number of applications that you've received since the regulations were adopted is so enormous that, and many of them are not even, completed to fruition, and there will be no community solar. But the matter that there are so many applications, it makes a lot of sense to have a working group discuss those issues. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. I assume that the concentration of deployment for community solar is going to be higher in Kent and Sussex counties, but I'm curious, are you going to make sure the geographic scope will also bring Newcastle County to the table?
The siting is really up to the developers. Each of the counties has their own unique rules related to zoning and siting that the developers have to get through long before they get to us.
Well, but I'm thinking your working group, I just want to make sure that the focus is statewide.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
That satisfies my question. No further questions, Mr. Chair. In fact, if you want a consensus from the commission, I move that the commission agree that the working group for community solar can be formed and administered.
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 4 ayes, 1 absent. The motion carries. You have a working group.
Thank you.
That's great. Best wishes with that. Mr. Hartigan.
Chairman Winslow and Commissioners, thanks for hanging in there today. Our next meeting is October 15th.
Hey, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Next time first.